In a 500-mile race at speeds of 230 plus, you can't afford to blink. On a gorgeous summer day in the green Irish hills of southern Michigan, the CART FedEx Championship Series makes its first 500-mile race of the year. Welcome to the third running of the CART US 500. Our first visit to a super speedway brings together all the classic storylines of a 500-mile race. The engines must be coaxed to run more than twice the distance they were primarily designed for. But the bigger burden falls on the drivers. 3 hours of supreme mental and physical effort. 3 hours in which your focus must be total. Focus as if your life depended on it, because on a super speedway, it does.
It's wide. It is some of the closest side-by-side racing, and it is fast. But when it goes wrong, look out. Emerson Fittipaldi and myself had our last champ car races right here. Bobby Rahal says he thanks God when he can get out of here in one piece. Today you'll see the fastest, most spectacular open wheel racing anywhere.
As the engines have come to life down on pit road, racing is always about efficiency. Have efficient pit stops, an efficient pit crew, an efficient driver in terms of marshaling when to pass and when not to pass. But today, the outcome of the US 500 could very well be dictated by something that's very inefficient. Instead of a wing, these cars carry what's known as the Hanford device. Quite simply, it's a super speedway wing with an 18-inch piece of carbon fiber at the trailing edge. Drivers say that it reduces the downforce. It also increases the drag. They also say it's like driving with a parachute.
With that Hanford device in place, drafting is going to be more important today than any time in recent memory in championship-type racing. But it's not the kind of drafting that we've gotten used to in the past. Drivers tell us now, if you're coming out of turn 4, even if the next car in front of you is more than half the way down the long front straightaway, you will gain 10 to 12 miles per hour as you close up in the vacuum. That's why we got trap speeds 247 miles per hour.
Normally you think on an oval of guys riding around here in top gear all the way around, but with the draft giving you 10 miles per hour additional on the straightaway, that will not be the case this year. Many drivers will have 3 top gears, one when they run on their own, a second top gear when they're behind one car, and then a third top gear when they're behind or in a group of cars. Now, none of the drivers know how much they're going to be shifting, but remember, it does put extra taxing mechanical on the car.
The cars are now on track, warming up tires and engines in anticipation of a 500-mile race. Here's how they'll line up. On the pole, Adrian Fernandez. A win from his first career pole would be worth $400,000 in bonus money. He starts next to the inaugural US 500 winner, Jimmy Vasser. On row 2, Richie Hearn, his best starting position ever, and Allenzer Jr., another former winner. Brian Herta and Scott Pruitt will start on row 3. On row 4 will be Alex Zanardi, the defending race champion, and Michael Andretti, a 2-time 500-mile winner here. Row 5 will be Christian Fittipaldi, his best ever start in a 500-mile race, and Gilles de Ferran. On row number 6, Andre Rivera, who has led in all 4 of his starts here at Michigan Speedway. Bobby Rahal will be alongside in his final visit. On row 7, J.J. Leto of Finland, and Greg Moore still looking for his first points finish. On row 8, Paul Tracy and Dario Franchitti. On row 9, Mauricio Gugelmin, who finished 6th or better in his last 4 500-mile races. Art Meyer next to him. On row 10, Tony Kanaan, who was fastest in the morning warm-up, and Englishman Mark Blundell. Row 11 will be Patrick Carpentier, who led this race last year as a rookie. Max Pappas of Italy will be next to him. Row 12 will be Robbie Gordon and Elio Castroneves. On row 13, Dennis Vitolo and Michel Jourdain Jr. of Mexico. And on row 14, the teammates for Dan Gurney's All-American racers, P.J. Jones and Alex Barron. We are moments away from the green flag. Stand by for more from Michigan. Welcome back to Michigan Speedway, where the cars now form up side by side for a 2 abreast start at the CART US 500. Now, here are some of the records and milestones at stake today. For Alex Zanardi, the points leader, a possible 5th consecutive win. That would be a series record. For his teammate, Jimmy Vasser, his 100th career start. For their team, Target Chip Ganassi Racing, a 7th consecutive victory would tie Team Penske's series record from 1994. For Bobby Rahal, his 40th 500-mile start. For the Ford Cosworth engine builders, a possible 300th victory. And for Roger Penske, who owns Michigan Speedway, his long-awaited 100th win, the most all-time among car owners. And now with Adrian Fernandez and Jimmy Vasser on the front row, they come around to face Jim Swintal with the green flag. 500 miles, 250 laps ahead of them, and we are underway.
Bob, they brought him down very slowly there. They wanted to get a good start, keep them side by side, but it bunched up the back of the pack.
Keep in mind, there are questions in every driver's mind about what that Hanford device on the back of his car will mean in terms of running in this kind of traffic. It is Vasser, Al Unser Jr. up into second, and look at him 3 wide down in turn 3.
Well, this is 500 miles, but Al Jr. wants to lead that first lap.
There he is, up high over Jimmy Vasser as they flash across the start-finish line to complete lap 1. Adrian Fernandez now being attacked and challenged for third, on board with Michael Andretti, who slots into third place. And you see the closing speed that this new rear wing, the Hanford device, allows.
And you just saw there what they've all got to do all day long is that Michael went to pull out around Jimmy, and Jimmy had to pull out around little Al. He's got to make sure nobody's right alongside of him.
Here comes Michael again. Vasser darts up high over Al Unser Jr. Michael Andretti goes low, 3 wide down into 1. Now Andretti and Vasser wheel to wheel. Our top qualifying speed of 229 miles an hour plus is likely to be slower than some of the race laps we will see when the tow comes into effect.
Bob, let's also not forget these guys are experiencing something they've never experienced before. That new element wing, they've got to really pay attention here. What the cars are doing is something they're experiencing firsthand right now.
See if Michael Andretti's hand goes for the gear lever. Some of these cars running as many as 3 top gears, depending on whether they're running alone or in traffic.
The part that amazes me the most here, I thought we'd see a very conservative start, everybody kind of feel everybody out. We've got a race here that looks like the last lap on a short sprint race.
3 kart champions battling up front. Al Unser Jr. for the moment has the lead. Now here comes Jimmy Vasser as Michael Andretti watches from behind. And Gilles de Ferran is the blue car to the right of your screen. On board with de Ferran.
And look at everybody. When they're dicing up in front like that, they can't get away. It allows the rest of the pack to close up on them.
And Danny, everybody in the grandstand is on their feet. Nobody sat down yet.
Vasser and Andretti now off the 18-degree banking in turns 1 and 2, 3 and 4. 12 degrees here at the start-finish line as de Ferran goes low looking for third from Al Unser Jr.
And to add to Gary's, we're on our feet in the booth. We're standing here. We can't believe this. This is supposed to be a 500-mile race.
And don't forget about Al Unser Jr. The reason he made a charge early, he might be a little more comfortable having IROC experience here at Michigan. Of course, drafting is the key there as well.
Michael Andretti now with the lead as they come around to complete lap number 6. That was the 3rd official lead change in the first 6 laps. And here comes Vasser attacking on the high side.
Now listen to this as they come off of turn 2. This is unbelievable. Listen to cars go by. Is that not one of the coolest sounds you'll ever hear?
Andretti down low around Vasser. There's Here's the view from Vassar's car. You can see his head leaning over against the inside of the cockpit as he fights centrifugal force that tries to push it to the outside. Gilles de Ferran tucks up. Slight lift there in 1 and 2. The running order across the bottom of your screen with the time differential to the leader.
And you saw Michael's hand go down. That was going down to the gear lever. Couldn't tell whether it was an upshift or a downshift, but he's on the lever. That's something that we're going to see all day long here. You don't normally see shifting on an oval, but we're going to see it today. They have to run that long gear when they're in the draft, or they'll over-rev the engine. But unfortunately, when they get out of the draft, they need the RPM to go fast, so they got to downshift.
On board, Richie Hearn just took a gear as he closes up behind Gilles de Ferran.
Remember, they're shifting at 230 miles an hour. That's a very tricky maneuver, even for these guys.
And as you and I walked the paddock yesterday to ask the drivers what it's like to do that sort of up and down shifting, nobody knew exactly what it was going to be like or how they would attack the problem.
Well, nobody's experienced this before, so they're all doing it firsthand right now as you watch it.
Side by side on the backstretch. Andretti underneath Vassar. De Ferran right there. Behind us, Richie Hearn, then Alonso Jr., who's dropped back to 5th. Adrian Fernandez, our pole sitter. Alex Zanardi running 7th. Then Scott Pruitt and Christian Fittipaldi. J.J. Leto, the highest running rookie, rounds out the top 10. Greg Moore, Bobby Rahal, Tony Kanaan, Art Meyer, Andre Ribeiro, Brian Herta, and Paul Tracy follow.
Alonso Jr. moving back into that position. That might have been a little strategy. Roger might have come on the radio, says, hey, Al, you can't run that pace all day long. We got 500 miles of racing here.
You saw Jimmy Vassar going back and forth, weaving on the backstretch to try to break that toe. It didn't work. Andretti slices past. Then Vassar. And de Ferran tucked into his toe. Fly by Michael Andretti. Richie Hearn in the Budweiser car for Della Penna Racing remains in 4th place. Like formation flying in fighter jets. Andretti and de Ferran side by side now.
And Denny, to answer your question, Roger Penske did not tell Alonso Jr. to slow down. Al has chosen to set a pace that he's comfortable with. He says that his car is pushing just a little bit, but that's how he wants it.
Lap speeds in the 221, 222 mile an hour range. Now Hearn closes up a little bit on Gilles de Ferran. But he'll have to watch his mirrors as well because he has company from pole sitter Adrian Fernandez. We'll take a break and return to Michigan. Back live at the CART US 500. Bob Barsha, Danny Sullivan with you. Jan Bikas, Gary Gerald, and Jack Arute in the pit lane as we watch Michael Andretti and Jimmy Vassar in a 225 mile an hour war.
These guys are swapping back and forth, feeling each other out. But the one thing that I know that they're doing in that cockpit is they are having fun. They are enjoying the hell out of this. This is fantastic racing.
We are on lap 18 of 250, and we are lapping traffic now. There's Dennis Batolo and the Peyton Coyne Reynard Ford being overwhelmed by the race leaders.
Guys, there's an interesting conservation going on, however, and it's a conservation of radios. Normally at this point in time, crews would be giving lap times. There'd be a little bit of a chatter back and forth. But because it's a 500-mile race, the batteries have to last for 500 miles. Transmissions, excessive ones, will wear the battery down quickly. All the teams are literally silent with 19, almost 20 laps into the record books.
You saw Richie Hearn's hand go down there and shift gears when he went into the corner. Wants to pull off here, get up in the toe. Jack, to add to your thing, too, I also don't think they want to bother the driver. Look at that. Down on the apron goes Richie Hearn.
Under P.J. Jones and Gilles de Ferran.
Back to what I was saying. I don't want to, I think the teams don't want to bother their drivers when they're in there dicing like this.
Now the drivers have been warned about going down low underneath that white line or yellow on parts of the racetrack that defines the apron where the banking goes horizontal.
Now at that point there, because it's a white line, they can do that. They can't start moving around, coming out of the pits down in the low part of the apron there and move up onto the track. But at that spot, it's okay to do it.
Fastest car on the racetrack right now, Jimmy Vasser, who lapped at 32.237 seconds last time by. He is 7/10 behind race leader Michael Andretti. Gilles de Ferran 1.7 seconds behind the race leader. Then Richie Hearn, Adrian Fernandez, Alex Zanardi, Alonso Jr. has faded back to 7th. Greg Moore is 8th. Christian Fittipaldi 9th, and Scott Pruitt 10th. Helio Castro Neves 2nd in the Rookie of the Year points race, started 24th, now runs 15th. And Greg Moore started 14th. He now runs 8th. In running down the starting grid, I mentioned he's looking for his first point-scoring finish. That would be in a 500-mile race like this one. Gilles de Ferran from Brazil. Always fast on the ovals. He has been slipping backwards in the PPG Cup points. He desperately needs a good finish for the Valvoline Cummins team and Derek Walker Racing.
Let's update you on the condition of your pole sitter, Adrian Fernandez. Now being posted in the 5th position, he's faded off the pace a bit, not happy with the handling in the car. So what they intend to do, at least to satisfy Adrian right now, they've said we'll make a stagger adjustment during the first pit stop. And what that means is they will change, Danny, the circumference of the tires to try and make the car steer a little better naturally into the corners.
Jack, one of the masters of that was always Rick Mears. He was such a good qualifier, started a lot in the pole, would fade back, and through the 500 miles, they were always working on the car to get it perfect for that run to the flag, and he sure won a lot of those things.
Fernandez may be coming right now, 225.628 miles an hour, that last lap.
And you can see him right there at the back of your screen, right there, the green and red car catching up that lead pack.
Currently in 5th place, closing up on Richie Hearn in the red Budweiser car.
And oftentimes, guys, at this stage of the race, you're not so worried about your actual position, but a lot of people are talking about wanting to get into the draft and into a group to save fuel. Because of the Hanford device, it creates a lot of drag, but if you're following somebody, you can get much better fuel economy.
Thanks, Jan. We are 50 miles into the race. You saw the green flag race average. We have had no yellows, over 220 miles an hour in average speed. However, this race has never gone caution-free.
The fewest laps we've ever had under caution is 24.
And I'm not just talking about the US 500. I'm talking about 18 previous runnings of 500-mile races here at Michigan. Gilles de Ferran on the left, going around Jimmy Vasser.
You know what amazes me the most is the speed that everybody is running right now in the average for a 500-mile race. Everybody that I talked to yesterday was talking conservative. They had to see what the car was going to do, what their fuel mileage was going to be. And look at the speeds they're turning. They got a 220-mile-an-hour average for the field. This is unbelievable.
Checking speeds at the line. The arrowheads tells you who's fastest, second fastest, third, and so forth. Gilles de Ferran, 224.523 miles an hour on that last lap.
And you'll see on that screen right there, some of them drop down to 219, 217, 216. The guys at the top of the pack, that usually means they're working their way through traffic, and they got held up a little bit on that lap.
Jimmy Vasser looking ahead at pole sitter Adrian Fernandez. The helmet straightens up as he looks dead ahead at the back of the Tecate-sponsored green and orange Reynard Ford on Firestone tires. Firestone has dominated the tire wars thus far this year. Goodyear won the season opening race on the oval at Homestead, Florida. But since then, it's been pretty much Firestone. Richie Hearn, a 225.148 mile an hour lap, and you see him go right by Jimmy Vasser. This race is going down at an amazing clip as you go on board with Richie. A little cloud cover makes the track cooler and makes the cars go even faster. We'll be back after this message and a word from our ABC stations.
You're watching Auto Racing on ABC Sports.
Back live at Michigan, riding on the nose of the Valvoline Cummings Reynard Honda for race leader Gilles de Ferran. The pit stops have started. Michael Andretti is already pitted. Here's Adrian Fernandez from third.
And no adjustments on Andretti's car. We don't see any on Adrian Fernandez either. They dropped the jackies away, but one of the things I find fascinating is both of those stops came early as little Al pits in Ford Cosworth power, not getting the fuel consumption Al Jr. has done with his Mercedes power as well. We get to see a Honda, though.
Yes, and for Al Unser Jr., they made a front wing change. He was in and out of here in 11.13 seconds. So a great stop for Penske. They added front wing, his push. That should help it.
We did have one Honda pit, Jack. Paul Tracy came in and out.
Bob, that could be somewhat of team strategy there as well if he had to make an adjustment, because now they have the other cool team out for Dario Franchitti. Maybe didn't want it so tight in there. There's Dario Franchitti left of your screen.
Tony Kanaan pitted as well. Fastest car in the morning warm-up.
And to the left was our leader, Gilles de Ferran. Flat spotting a tire right there. And a bad angle. Bad angle in the pits, Gary.
They're stretching with the fuel hose. It's now a uniform 12 feet. Zanardi pulls in right behind him. No changes for de Ferran. Kanaan slides by. Off the jacks. De Ferran and Zanardi still getting his service complete. He pulls away. No problem.
Greg Moore comes out in the blue car at the top of your screen as well. As the pit activity continues, everybody stopping now. And you notice that the fuel hose came off before Gilles de Ferran's car dropped to the pavement. Some of the teams have started experimenting with dropping the car first to allow more fuel to flow in at a faster rate because of the bigger angle before they send him out. Jimmy Vasser is in. Gary Gerald.
And they're going to go down a turn on the front wing. Oh, that's more than a turn. It looked like two, maybe 2.5 turns up there. He pulls away routinely.
And you saw what I mean about dropping the car. The Ganassi team was among the first to do that. And others are starting it as well. Richie Hearn pits from the lead. Jack Arute.
Now, Richie Hearn, by my recollection, has extended the fuel mileage for the Ford.
We're going to give you one turn front wing, correct? Okay.
Did you see the thumbs up from Richie Hearn at the request about a turn on the front wing? So watch one of the tire changers. Turns once, twice, 3 times. That actually is one full turn of the wing up.
Okay, watch your speed leaving. Watch your speed leaving. Cold tires.
15.9, the reference to cold tires. Make sure you don't spin on the flat of the track.
Andre Ribeiro is also on pit road. He went much longer than his teammate Al Unser Jr. on fuel, and that was 12.3 seconds because he had to put a little more fuel than Al Jr.
36 laps on that load of fuel for Andre Ribeiro as Richie Hearn makes his way back out.
See his hand come down. He put a tear off there, a little plastic that goes over the front of his visor to keep it clean. The oil will go on there and he can just keep tearing them off. He's probably got 3 to 5 on there for a 500-mile race.
Coming up to full speed. Meanwhile, there is Michael Andretti, who has assumed the race lead as we work lap 39 of 250. In second place after the pit stops, Gilles de Ferran. Third, Adrian Fernandez. Then Mark Blundell, who has yet to pit. Alex Zanardi has pitted. He is 5th. Jimmy Vasser is 6th. Richie Hearn is 7th. And then Mauricio Gugelmin, Blundell's teammate. These are Mercedes-powered cars. They have not pitted yet. See the gap from first to second as we pick up Gilles de Ferran with the bright white nose on his Reynard.
Fellas, you want to know how sensitive everybody's getting down here on pit road? The unknowns? Well, how about the mention that the Ford Cosworths weren't getting great fuel mileage? All of a sudden, people from Ford descend upon us telling us, oh, that's an individual team decision. You know what that says to me? Everybody is a little unsure as to how far they can go. Jan?
Well, Andre Ribeiro, they took his tire off. You can see the crew is rolling it away now. We'll show you why. We will follow it. You can see that there's oil on the outside of the tire, so there may be a problem with Andre Ribeiro, something, I believe, at the right rear.
Jan, those guys didn't want you to chase that down too hard. They don't want to show what their problem is, particularly on television.
Well, frequently they tell us that if you find oil around the right rear and you change a tire, that could be a fact that a seal is leaking or you've got a problem with that right wheel bearing. That's what takes so much of the load on the banks at Michigan.
Each car with 15 sets of tires for the weekend. The green flag race average speed has dropped just 1 mile an hour, and that includes pit stops for everyone. An absolutely torrid pace here at Michigan today. Finally, Mauricio Gugelmin pits and heads back for the racetrack. At the bottom of your screen, you see with 42 laps complete, the running order and the gap in time to the race leader, Michael Andretti. Flying from the shade cast by a cloud into the bright sunlight here in the Irish Hills of southern Michigan, about an hour from Detroit.
See how low Alex Zanardi keeps it down there on the track. That means the car's working very well. He can drive anywhere he wants to go. See if he'll stay. Has to lift. You heard him lift going into that corner. He might not be comfortable with the car in the turbulence behind those other two cars. He's trying to stagger when to get them so that he can pass them down the back straightaway. But you can see how equal all the cars in this field are.
Passing Dennis Vitolo at 14,000 RPM. And some of these engines are ranging higher than that on the RPM scale. The crankshaft turns 234 times per second. Good look there at Richie Hearn with Louis the Lizard on the side pods. Alpina team's luck seems to have gotten a bit better since they adopted the Budweiser logo on the side of the car. Vitolo with the bright green helmet, being chased by Greg Moore, who has worked his way forward. Moore has had a terrible run of luck in recent races, including a crash at Cleveland, several races without any points scored at all, and he was once in the running for the championship. Good look from the Goodyear Blitz Spirit of Akron, hovering above Michigan Speedway. Goodyear invites you to visit its internet site at www.goodyear.com for pictures and information about its blimp fleet. We'll take a break and return with more live from the CART US 500. Our first Toyota Spotlight of the day here at the US 500 is all about the craziness at the start of this race. In what we thought would be a conservative start, we have seen 10 lead changes among 5 drivers, such as Michael Andretti, our current race leader. Richie Hearn down below the white line to get around Gilles de Ferran. And after the first round of pit stops, Michael Andretti, who came in first, emerges in first place. That's our first Toyota Spotlight of the day. Greg Moore in blue and white in the player's car going around the outside of Richie Hearn. This is for position for 6th place. Hearn goes to the gear shift lever.
And Bob, of course, Richie Hearn is one of those guys on Firestone tires, and Firestone has won every CART sanctioned 500-mile race, but Goodyear now is 1 and 2. So Firestone has led only 11, but Goodyear has led 40 of these laps, as you can see graphically. So Andretti and de Ferran on Goodyear, so maybe this is Goodyear's chance to win a 500-mile race.
Goodyear came in with brand new left and right side fore and aft tires for these cars. Firestone in their press release said that they didn't have quite as much time as they would have liked, so they're using the tires that performed well for them in the Budweiser 500, round 2 of the season at the Twin Ring Motegi circuit in Japan.
When I talked to all the drivers up and down the pit lane, their biggest concern was Michael Andretti. They all thought he was running very well. All of them said that they thought he would be the biggest threat today.
And Danny, the last 9 times that he has been here, he has not finished a race at Michigan. He says the law of averages should mean something today.
Here's a program note coming up following the CART US 500. We continue our ABC Sports coverage of the Tour de France, stage 14. The cyclists will be riding in the Alps. It's a downhill sprint. You don't want to miss the Tour de France special coming up next on ABC Sports.
Hey guys, what about the Donut Man? Alex Zanardi being posted in the 5th position, faded off the lead pace by design. Chip Ganassi and Zanardi have decided that they want to save a little bit till the final 100 miles. So much so that they're literally trying to save battery, save conversation. And Zanardi radios in and says, "But Chip, I'm lonely." As he begins to mount an assault on his teammate in Jimmy Vasser. But one of the things that probably makes Zanardi lonely today is his wife Daniela is just recently released from the hospital after experiencing some problems in connection with the impending birth of their child later this year. And Alex said as he strapped himself into the car, "Jack, if you get to say it, please tell Daniela I love her."
I'm sure she's watching, and we all wish you a speedy recovery and an easy birth of your first child, Daniela. Alex Zanardi, rumors swirl about whether the Italian, who has brought so much personality to his open wheel exploits here in the United States, will be in the Kart FedEx Championship Series next year with a massive lead in the points right now. 69 points, 3 full races worth, which means after this race, even if he scored no points, our next race at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course in 2 weeks, and the race after that at Road America in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, Alex Zanardi would still be the points leader, seeking his second championship. Looking back from Jimmy Vasser's car, the blue machine of Greg Moore. You can see just how smooth this racetrack is. A slight bit of vibration there at the back of the car. But in this kind of traffic, you have to be able to trust the racetrack. Greg Moore's last lap, 227.89 miles an hour, the quickest we've seen thus far today.
Let's not forget that Greg Moore also started back in 14th spot, so he's moved well up the field.
Fastest laps of the day. You see Greg Moore's name, Alex Zanardi, Michael Andretti, Adrian Fernandez, Scott Pruitt down there as well. So fast lap honors are being passed around here today.
What that tells me is they're all capable of doing it. Everybody's got their own agenda out there, their own strategy, and they're all playing out. They started out at a furious pace. I think everybody had to settle down to keep from wearing themselves out. I know I was pretty worn out up here in the booth just talking about it.
But fellas, consider this. It is no Sunday walk in the park. For a fella like Greg Moore, he actually had to wait until the pit sequence kicked in so he could come out of the pits, not only to take on fuel, but to replace the visor on his helmet, tape it shut. It seems some of the padding around his head has vibrated loose, and they were trying to stabilize his head for better vision.
Alex Zanardi on the right, his teammate Jimmy Vasser on the left. A week ago in Toronto, Zanardi said, "I have never had a tougher time passing anyone than my teammate that day." Right now, Zanardi looks ahead to his teammate Greg Moore right behind. This is 4th, 5th, and 6th.
You have to remember, in an open cockpit car like this, that disturbed air that comes back and gives that big draft, it also tumbles into the cockpit and can really toss your head around in there. They wear little gadgets over the top of the head, little wickers, if you like, to keep their head down in the car. All the helmets are designed different for aerodynamic flow because they can really play havoc on your neck.
And Danny, Greg Moore is one of those guys that was very concerned about running in traffic before this race. He said, "I really am worried about guys cutting in front of me and taking away my air." But the way he's running right now, he seems to have found a comfort level.
And as you saw from our race notes there at the upper left of your screen, being a racing champion does have its perks. Al Unser Jr. is making a pit stop right now. This is on lap number 62. As you watch Greg Moore up high, continuing to move forward. From British Columbia in Western Canada, his home race will come up later this year when we visit the streets of Vancouver. Going around, Robbie Gordon in the Panasonic-sponsored Toyota-powered Reynard.
It's a big show right here. It tells me that these guys not only are great athletes driving the car in this kind of conditions with 225, 227 mile-an-hour speeds, wheel to wheel with everybody, but the condition that they have to be in for 3.5 hours of racing like this is tremendous. Let's not forget, in the corners, they're pulling 4.5 negative G's on the body. That's a tremendous load, and they're getting around a lap in 32 seconds. So that's twice every 32 seconds they're pulling that kind of load.
On the backstretch, Dennis Vitolo on the left. Richie Hearn looking for some place to go. He has drivers down low and up high. Now they string out once again.
And Bob, the reason that Al Unser Jr. came onto pit road, he had handling difficulties, and they put a smaller wicker on the back of the car. That means he had a big push. Roger Penske felt they needed to change it right away.
The race is barely 35 minutes old, yet we've gone more than 125 miles of green flag racing. Now let's take a look at the rookie battle. Tony Kanaan runs in 12th place. His former teammate in the Indy Lights feeder series to the Kart FedEx Championship, Helio Castroneves, runs in 16th, just a few seconds behind. Castroneves being advised by the great Emerson Fittipaldi, whose career ended here at Michigan Speedway with a racing crash. is Patrick Carpentier. Last year's Rookie of the Year, currently running in 19th place. Teammate to Greg Moore for the Players Forsyth team. There you see the numbers on him. Having trouble coming forward. The surprise in Carpentier was, here was a guy who was raised road racing, came to the Kart FedEx Championship Series and excelled on the ovals and struggled on the road courses. Michael Andretti pits.
Watch your brakes. The pit lane slick. You slid through last time.
Team manager Ed Nathman warning Michael to watch how he stops in a slick pit lane.
It's hard to make up a lot of time in the pits, but you can certainly lose a lot of time making a mistake in the pits.
Hold it, 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 hold it.
And guys, that's the most conversation in 12.3 seconds that Michael Andretti has heard on the radio since the drop of the green flag.
And Paul Tracy also at the same time came in and out, no difficulties. They got a full load of fuel.
This is for the lead now. Gilles de Ferran in blue and white. And Adrian Fernandez, our pole sitter. If Fernandez can come through to win this race, he will win the traditional winner's check of $100,000. He has already picked up $10,000 for taking pole, and he will also win the Marlboro Rollover Pole Award bonus, $15,000 into the kitty for each pole sitter if he can win the race from pole. That hasn't happened in over a year, and that bonus check is now up to $285,000. Fernandez attacks down low. Fernandez takes over the race lead with clear track ahead of him.
And despite losing that position, Adrian Fernandez, de Ferran radioing his crew saying the car is good. We expect no changes. He should be in 2 laps for his second pit stop.
Good look there at Gilles de Ferran. Ahead of him, Adrian Fernandez. Only the 5th race Fernandez has led in 83 career starts in the series, and he won 2 of those races that he led.
Well, Gary, if your call is correct and Gilles de Ferran, your front runner, should pit this time by, he'll have a buddy as well because they've just called for Adrian Fernandez to come out of pit road as well.
Fernandez comes into this 12th round of 19 in the championship, 4th in points. 86 behind series leader Alex Zanardi, but who isn't at least 69 points behind Alex Zanardi, who has dominated the series to date with 4 straight wins. Fernandez is in.
Gilles de Ferran stayed out on the track for another lap.
Now, the most important thing that a lot of the teams are cautioning is, likewise for Fernandez, is watch your brakes. You don't need to use them out on the racetrack, but you've got to hit your marks exactly as Fernandez does when you come to the pits. Nominal stop. The only thing they want to do is keep the engine revved up. It's back in gear, and he's away in 11.8 seconds.
And the engine automatically goes rough as he leans on the pit lane speed control
Watch
button.
the front wing out, fuel and tires. Watch braking on the concrete.
Seems to be universal concern about that slick concrete in the pit lane. That was Derek Walker. Oh, and he lights one up.
But don't forget, when he came in last time, he lit them all up and got in at a bad angle.
Well, when you've been going 220 miles per hour and you come down to 60 and you're at pit exit, you must feel like you're crawling. We listen with Derek Walker.
Go, 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 go. Clear behind. And
Lighting
just
up.
coming past the start and finish. He's going to get you.
Telling him that Adrian Fernandez has come by to get him. Here is Greg Moore now pitting from 3rd place on lap 73. Jan Bikas.
He brings it to a stop, and we're going to see if they do make any changes for Greg Moore. Oh, the Ventos took a little bit of a time, extra time to get in. This could be a slightly slower stop for Greg Moore. If you don't have the Ventos in, it doesn't go as quick. 12.4.
And Alex Zanardi in for his second stop of the day. Also front wing changes. Holding as the fueling is complete, and he's on his way.
And Gary, there is a problem with Scott Pruitt's car. They cannot get the air jack up in the car. They're going to have to lift it manually. It looks as if the connector at the top of the cowling has broken off. This makes for a lengthy stop, a long fill of the fuel. They still haven't completed because they caught the arrows off and away for a former winner of the US 500. But very long, over 30 seconds on pit road.
And Now Scott Pruitt must compose himself. One of 6 former winners in this year's field. Pruitt, Unser Jr., Zanardi, Ribeiro, Vassar, and Michael Andretti have all won here at Michigan. Pruitt comes back on the racetrack.
You saw that green and red car go by there. That's Adrian Fernandez. That could be bad news for Scott because it more than likely put him a lap down.
The order is Richie Hearn leading on lap 75. Jimmy Vassar second, Michael Andretti third, then Adrian Fernandez, Andre Ribeiro, who has yet to make his second stop. The same goes for Hearn and Vassar up front. Now Hearn pits, and Vassar as well. On board with Jimmy Vassar. Gary Gerald awaits him.
Expecting no changes, the man who won here, as you mentioned, in the US 500, the inaugural in 1996, started second, had a brilliant run, getting terrific fuel mileage in his Honda-powered plant. Now rolling under 13 seconds again, routine service.
The Target Chip Ganassi team sets the standard in race pit service. As you look from our Honda Helicam, Jimmy Vassar makes his way back out. 75 laps complete around this 2-mile high-banked oval. Michigan Speedway is the site of the CART US 500. We'll be right back. 4,500-mile starts in his glittering career, including 3 CART FedEx Series championships. He makes his final appearance here as a driver. Let's go to Jackaroo. Wait, we have yellow flags from the flag stand. Robbie Gordon has hit the wall right side. He hit it down in turn 4 and stops on the infield grass. Gordon has had a tough weekend here for the Archie R. Wells team, including a crash on Friday. Shaking his head as he walks away. Let's see if we can tell what happened.
He just got up into the gray. You just saw him. He got up a little bit there where the car started walking on him. Right back here. He just gets up in that gray area. There's no grip up there whatsoever. Just goes up and slides up into the wall.
CART safety team member checking out Gordon. So his race is over in dramatic fashion. Lots of rumors swirling about Robbie Gordon's future this weekend here at Michigan as well. We'll be back after this message and a word from our ABC stations. Back at the CART US 500, we are under caution. There you see Adrian Fernandez, who came into his pit stop in second place behind Michael Andretti, but got out ahead of Andretti in the black Texaco car just behind him. Let's get down to Jan Bikas.
And bad news for Andre Ribeiro. We saw on your tire, Andre, earlier there was oil on it. It appears as though the oil leak got worse. Do you know what caused it?
No, we don't know what caused it yet, but for sure there is no way to run there with some oil leak. It's too dangerous for us, too dangerous to other drivers too, so unfortunately we had to stop.
Track conditions up until that point?
It was okay. I have to say that it was completely different racing with this new configuration. It was the draft was really big, but the car was running pretty well. We were saving everything, saving the engine. It's really a shame that this did happen. I think the guys did a fantastic job on their dynamics. The Penske cars did a fantastic job bringing a new kit for us, so it's really a shame. I just hope that Al can conclude this work and we'll be okay.
Thanks, Jan, let me interrupt you because Scott Pruitt is taking advantage of this yellow flag to make a change. Now watch the top of the bonnet where they've gone to work. They have tightened the male lead on the onboard air system. That is what vibrated loose. They did not have to replace it, so therefore all they did was take this piece right here, screw it back down in, and they're none the worse for wear. The caution couldn't come at a better time. They've solved their problem. They're back in the hunt.
On board with Scott Pruitt. We'll take a break and return with more from Michigan Speedway. Stay with us. Back at Michigan Speedway, the kart US 500 under a yellow flag. The longest a 500-mile race has run here at Michigan before the yellow came out, 80 laps. The previous record was 38. We've had 17 lead changes among 7 drivers in what has been a great race thus far. Let's go to Jack Arute.
Let's give you a couple of quick updates. First, on your second place runner, Richie Hearn, he has a problem with this radio. He can hear the team, but they can't hear him. But watch for Christian Fittipaldi as we get ready for the green. He's radioed in excessive water temperature, a signal that an engine might be going away. Back to you.
All right, thank you, Jack. Greg Moore gets a good jump as he leads the field down. Richie Hearn runs second. In third is Jimmy Vasser with some lap cars in between. Alex Zanardi is fourth. Adrian Fernandez fifth. Then Michael Andretti, Gilles de Ferran, Alonso Jr., Paul Tracy, and Bobby Rahal rounding out the top 10. Target teammates running close together. Jimmy Vasser and Alex Zanardi in third and fourth. Vasser goes up high to go around his teammate. There's Zanardi's view.
You can just hear Zanardi pedaling out of the throttle just a little bit, breathing the car a little bit.
Down the long back stretch, there's Adrian Fernandez running in fifth right now. Michael Andretti is sixth.
Saw Michael's hand move down there right and shifted. He did a shift. Now his hand goes down again to make another shift.
Closing up behind, diving underneath.
Obviously that shift was played to his advantage.
Meanwhile, a lead change as Richie Hearn passed Greg Moore. Hearn on the left, Moore on the right. See if Moore closes up as they flash across the start-finish line. Fastest point of the racetrack. Up high goes the Canadian.
And that car behind him is J.J. Lato in the Hogan entry, having a good run.
Lato currently shown in 12th place. Watching that battle just ahead. I spoke with Carl Hogan this weekend. He says, hey, I've got an oval track driver. They've certainly had their problems on the road courses, including a couple of heavy crashes in our last 2 races at Cleveland and Toronto. And here comes JJ down low.
He's going to pass them all.
And we have a yellow flag. Yellow from the flag stand. Dennis Vitolo has crashed and spun. And he may not have hit anything. There's a bit of orange debris on back up the racetrack. The traffic cone. As you see Vitolo moving around in the car. The Peyton Coyne entry. Kart safety team on the scene. It's all hands on deck for the kart safety team this weekend, including 3 full MDs.
He's up on the high lane right there. There's Dennis Vitolo. The lower car is Scott Pruitt. They just get a little close there. I don't believe they touch, but the air looks a little disturbed. Moves Dennis Vitolo up a little bit. Looks like he's gathered it up. Gets up there in the gray where Robbie Gordon was. Just goes up and brushes it tall. See him white walling the tire right along the wall. Comes back down there at a bad angle. Spins it, hits the brakes, skids down there.
Vitolo is out of the car. He'll head for the medical center. Let's go to Jan Bikas.
Well, speaking of Robbie Gordon, Robbie, you're out of the care center. I know you're okay, but what happened down there?
Had the car working pretty good at that point. You know, I didn't feel we were running over our head by any means, but we were running comfortable, racing with Jimmy and Alex. Had some pretty good laps. We're doing 218s, 220s. Jimmy moved up in front of me. We went into turn 1, 2 side by side, or turn 3 side by side. He had the line, pulled me up, and I pushed. I caught dirty air, pushed to the marbles. There's a lot of marbles out there. Once I got in the marbles, I knew it was going to hit, just a matter of time. And then it was like slow motion. Unfortunate, you know, Toyota engine's getting so much stronger. You know, we had a pretty good car this weekend. We were going to try to finish, and fortunately, today wasn't our day.
Now, are the marbles, you think, going to increase as the race goes on? They're pretty soft tires. Everyone is running. Do you expect that problem to get worse?
I think that's one thing that the tire war is definitely doing. It's making the racing very difficult. You know, it's going to get to a one-line racetrack if the guys keep running at the bottom. We weren't running at the top. We were running probably a mid-groove, and it was starting to get dirty up there.
Okay, we're glad you're okay.
Thanks.
Robbie Gordon has some interesting opportunities coming his way. He expects to make some decisions in the next few weeks. Now there you see the jet dryers out on the racetrack to blow off some of the marbles that Robbie Gordon talked about, the bits of rubber that come off the tires. Here's a look at our race summary after 92 laps. Greg Moore is the leader. 3 cars officially out of the race. Stay with us. Our second Toyota Spotlight of the day here at Michigan reflects some of the activities going on this weekend, beginning with the 6th annual go-kart challenge for the drivers and media. Mark Blundell spending time with some 200 kids at the Jackson Y. On Friday, CART announced the change of their New York Stock Exchange ticker symbol to MPH. And yesterday, fans lined up to meet some of their favorite CART drivers during the autograph session that is featured at every race. Scott Pruitt, Robbie Gordon, Richie Hearns, and Elio Castroneves doing the honors. Welcome back to Michigan. High above the racetrack, one of America's most enduring corporate images, the Goodyear blimp Spirit of Akron hovers, providing an aerial view of the US 500. The Goodyear blimps have been making special appearances over spectacular events for more than 70 years. Let's get down to Jack Arute.
Well, Christian Fittipaldi has not had a good weekend here. The third engine, or actually 2 engines in practice, one of them with debris causing the problem, and now a big hole in your radiator, debris again.
Yeah, currently, yes. Definitely wasn't a good weekend for us. I think the whole team put a lot of effort into it because they had to change everything from my race car to my T car, which I had qualified yesterday. So they really put a lot of work and effort into it, but unfortunately it didn't pay off.
Guys?
All right, thank you, Jack. The tough season continues for Christian Fittipaldi. We'll take a break, and we'll be back after this message and a word from our ABC stations. Back live at Michigan Speedway under our second caution of the day. There is the Toyota safety car being driven by Gail Truis, who lives just about 10 miles from Michigan Speedway. She's a part of the PPG pace car team, and she has driven 32 miles thus far, pacing the field in her Toyota Supra Turbo in PPG automotive finishes. Coming up later today on ABC Sports, Pep Boys Professional Boxing. We'll bring you a 12-round IBF Flyweight Championship bout from the Turning Stone Casino in Verona, New York. It'll be Mark Johnson and Luis Rolón battling it out for the belt and the title. Down to Jan Abikas.
Well, Bob, a few moments ago, Paul Tracy called in on the radio and said that he thought that Al Unser Jr. was smoking. Now, of course, we already saw Andre Ribeiro leave this race because of smoke, but I checked with the Penske team, and they said that they really feel that Paul has the wrong car. They assure me Al Unser Jr. is not smoking. He is comfortable with the car, and they expect him to move to the front. Let's go to Jack Arute.
Well, Jan, what a great day for this man, the owner of the car being piloted by Richie Hearn. John Della Penna, it's been an uphill struggle since you came to CART, but today, running in that second place, but you still had some problems with the radios.
Yeah, we can't hear him very well. He can hear us, but we have one-way communication at this point. It's, you know, it's great to be here and running in the position we're in. I can't describe it. It's the best.
But as we watch on board with Richie Hearn, you have not pitted, as neither has the leader. Both of you have elected not to top off here. Going to throw you out of sequence.
Well, we've been getting real good gas mileage. We've pitted about 5 laps later after everybody else pitted, so we think we're going to go this route and see what happens. I think we can do it on 3 more stops.
Fellas?
All right, thanks, Jack. There is Richie Hearn. He and John Della Penna have been together a long time. They have achieved much.
I got to question that. They're going to go 3 more stops. There's 151 laps remaining. That means they're going to get a
you know, Danny, I got to agree with you. I was never a math major, but that one doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But I've actually heard the same thing come out of the camp down at Players. They feel that they can do the same. So tactics about to unfold. Gail
Truis brings the safety car off as we go green once again. Reese starting on lap 101. As the action build once again, we'd like to send the PPG Pace Car team's best wishes to a former member of their group, Kathy Rude Heimrath, wife of racing driver Ludwig Heimrath, who's going through cancer treatments. The team is thinking about you, Kathy.
Whoa, did you see that backstretch there?
JJ
Lato. Now, he's a rookie. He's not ever raced here for a 500 mile. That was a little bit quick, that move there. He's got to be a little smoother than that. You can lose one of these cars maneuvering like that.
Well, Danny, it's interesting because this is the first time he's had a chance to run on a super speedway. A man with no oval track experience. That learning curve, I would think, is about as steep as you could possibly get.
Pass for the lead as Richie Hearn gets underneath Greg Moore and takes over the race lead. And now we understand that a black flag will come out for Jimmy Vasser, currently shown in 11th place. So a violation for Vasser means the officials will call him in, and that will be costly as they come around across the start-finish line, and Greg Moore goes high above race leader Richie Hearn. A Swift chassis with Ford power and Firestone tires against the similarly shod Reynard Mercedes-Benz of Moore.
Those two guys certainly don't look like they're conserving fuel running like that.
Moore takes over the lead again. There is Richie Hearn's view. If any of the three Swift make that two Swift chassis still in the field, Michael Andretti and Richie Hearn, with Christian Fittipaldi having already retired, it would be the first time in nearly 2 decades that an American-made Champ Car chassis. What am I talking about? That would be an offshore race. If he did it in Toronto, it would make a difference. Not here. Michael Andretti, of course, has won with the Swift chassis. Here is Vasser for his drive-through penalty.
Boy, and Tom Anderson is frustrated. He's unhappy. He doesn't want to talk. I asked, what's the reason? He said, because he wasn't at the back of the pack. And I'm not sure that I understand that myself. But boy, there's consternation and frustration by the bucket load down here for the Target team.
And of course, you just saw Jimmy Vasser just quickly on the left of your screen coming out of the pits as the leaders went by. That hurt him big time, put him a lap down.
Okay, I'm over my bat, but someone else is in one. Smoke from the back of Helio Castro Neves' car. We understand that the black flag will come out for him so that he can head for the pits and have a look over.
And look at this, Gilles de Ferran, he's going by both the leaders. Right there, he and Greg Moore wheel to wheel through 1 and 2. Unbelievable. Greg Moore held him off. Gilles de Ferran on the tighter line didn't have quite as free a car there. But he looks like he's setting him up to come back at the start-finish line.
Moore, de Ferran, Richie Hearn, Michael Andretti, Paul Tracy, Adrian Fernandez, Alonso Jr. As they flash around at better than 220 miles per hour.
And Richie Hearn says, hey, I want that spot back. He's going to drive the low line.
Wheel to wheel, Hearn and de Ferran. Now Hearn slots in behind the Brazilian.
Let me tell you, when you're racing wheel to wheel like that through a corner with other guys, you have to have a tremendous amount of confidence in that other driver, especially at the speeds they're doing, 230 miles an hour, averaging in the mid 220s. This is unbelievable racing, and Richie Hearn's coming right back.
And fellas, this is something that Neil Mickelrider, who calls the shots for your number 99 car, is not at all happy about Greg Moore. I shouldn't say not happy, but they are in a fuel conservation mode. They want to complete this race with only 3 more stops. And they said, you know, this dicing back and forth, unless, and he brought up this point, the drafting is helping them conserve a little bit of fuel.
Well, Jack, he's out in the front, so he's not getting much drafting right now. He's creating the draft, and Michael Andretti is working his way back to the front.
17 visits to this racetrack. Michael Andretti has finished just 12 times. The record here is not a cause for confidence. But he has victories and other podium finishes in those other 5 finishes here, so it's been pretty much win or nothing for Michael Andretti in Michigan as he slots up behind de Ferran. Oh, well, that was close.
Gilles de Ferran, you can hear him lift off there, just breathing the car, giving that engine a little bit of rest, and obviously the car's not working where he can run flat out through that corner. Michael says, okay, I tried high, I'll go down low. Works for me. Pulls up, Gilles de Ferran says, hey, thanks for the tow. I'm going to try the outside this time. What this does do with this dicing back and forth between these guys, it lets Greg Moore and Richie Hearn stretch it out a little bit. See them at the bottom of your screen, blue and red, right there, just out of your, went out of sight.
Going around the lap car of Michel Jourdain Jr., who was very despondent this weekend when we spoke with him, Danny, about how his car just was not running around this racetrack. Ferran is third, Michael Andretti fourth. Meanwhile, up front, Greg Moore leading for the 8th time this year. He led 7 of the first 8 races, but hasn't had a race lead since Detroit. Michael Andretti passes Gilles de Ferran one more time. Down to Jan Bikus.
Dennis Patolo has been released from the hospital. I know you're enjoying watching this race. Robbie talked about marbles. Is that what puts you out as well?
Yes, it was. Well, it happened with the draft there. Everyone got such a good toe down the back straight, and one of the guys just got underneath me and just slid a little wide, which put me enough just to get into the marbles. And as soon as you get on, it's like really driving on ice. And just tapped the wall. Didn't damage the car much, but enough to get me out of the race.
Thanks.
We are working lap number 113 of 250. When we passed 109 laps, that was 218 miles. That is the average race length of the 11 rounds of the FedEx Championship Series visited to this point. But we still have a long way to go as you watch Greg Moore leading the way over Richie Hearn, Gilles de Ferran, and Michael Andretti. Let's go to Gary Gerald for more on Jimmy Vasser's situation.
Bob, I think we can clarify what happened on that penalty. Just before they went green, Vasser ducked in to top off with fuel. In 9.5 seconds, he got the fuel, went back on track, but he was in the pack up, and he was trying to work his way toward the back as he is obligated to do under the rules. He didn't get all the way to the back of the pack when the green flag came out. Thus, the drive-through penalty, that explains all the frustration. The timing was missed by mere seconds.
And Jimmy Vasser finds himself back in 12th place, a lap down.
And at the pace these guys are running, that's going to be very difficult to get that lap back, no matter how quick you are.
Of the top 10, Greg Moore and Richie Hearn have pitted twice. Everyone else in the top 10 has pitted 3 times. We expect pit stops on the next lap. There is Moore.
And he will be pitting this time by. And one of the interesting things that just happened is they asked...
Crash on the... Or not a crash, but a blown engine on the backstretch. Jack, excuse me.
What a break for this man, your leader.
Oh, absolutely. It looks like P.J. Jones in the Castrol sponsored car for Dan Gurney has lost an engine. Pits are closed. But when they open, it will be a break for Greg Moore and Richie Hearn.
But now here's the key, guys, for these guys. They were scheduled to come in that pit lane. They've been shifting to try and save fuel even under this caution. You don't want to run out if it takes a while for the pits to open.
I don't think it'll be that long with a blown engine, Jack, but what they will do is they'll instantly turn their fuel mixture down, probably run around 84, 85%, and conserve the fuel, no RPM, and just kind of coast around as much as they can.
See the kart safety team out there looking for fluids that may have come out of P.J. Jones's car. When the pits open, we will check on the pit stops for the top 3 cars. You see the crews in the pit lane. A very different kind of race about to begin.
Yes, and Jack, I wasn't a math major either, but with 133 laps left, unless there's a lot more yellow, I'll be surprised if those guys can go that far with one more stop.
But you know, this is the thing, we're defining things all over again. because of the fact that we're using the device. The Hanford device changes fuel consumption. Who knows, Danny? Maybe we flunked math. Maybe we're going to flunk the Hanford wing as well.
Well, they're learning as they go, so they've got to figure out what that thing is capable of doing and how much fuel they're using.
Pit, Michael, pit.
You heard Ed Nathman telling Michael the pits are now open. The green sign with the black plus on it means lead lap cars can pit now.
Tell him to get by Hearn.
First pitting also. So the first three plus the Farron are all going to pit with you. Yes. You got a clear pit in. You got a clear pit in. Hearn will be pitting right in front of you. That's 4. Watch your brakes. Lane is not working. My pit lane is not working. Put Hearn in. Pick up the Hearn. Go on.
Sounds like Michael Andretti has lost his pit lane speed limiter.
And Richie Hearn has missed his pit. He has missed his pit. He couldn't get in. He's had to go around.
Reset your peel. Hold it, hold it, hold it, hold it, hold it. All right, go, go.
And now, Greg Moore has stalled his car, Danny. They're going to have to put the starter in. He'll be at the back of the pack.
Well, of the top 3 cars, Michael Andretti is the only one who got away without being wounded. Richie Hearn misses his pit. Greg Moore stalled, had to be brought back, restarted, and he is now on his way.
And that was great service for Andretti, just a fraction over 10 seconds before Richie Hearn's crew having to wait for him to come all the way back around under caution. Try it again.
Out of sight of our cameras, Adrian Fernandez also had an awkward entry to his pits and had a fairly long stop. So we'll see how they shuffle out as you ride with Richie Hearn. What must be going through his mind right now?
I'll tell you what, guys, Greg Moore does have a problem. What they're going to have to do now, something's going wrong with the clutch. He's got to literally slam the car in neutral and then slam it back into gear in order to get going. So that could be costly, especially under a green flag condition. In the meantime, Richie Hearn tries this time to pull onto pit road for service, hits his marks, and the crew goes to work.
Don't worry about it. We got a ways to go.
Smart move by the crew chief, trying to reassure everybody on the radio.
Watch your speed leaving. Cold
A long
tires.
way to go, but in 13.8, he's finished his service.
We are not even to the halfway point. 120 laps in the books, 130 remain. Stand by for more from Michigan.
It's big.
High above a sun-splashed Michigan Speedway. Courtesy of our Honda Helicam, you have a view of the field continuing to make their way around under our 3rd caution of the day. Down in the pit lane, Jan Beekes.
Well, P.J. Jones, of course, is the reason for this caution. The engine blew, I know, but you were having more problems than that, weren't you?
Yeah, something must have happened to the car because we had a perfect car this morning and no understeer, nothing. We ended up putting like 10 turns of front wing on it, and the thing's still understeering. So we must have a shock or something going bad, and it's too disappointing because I thought we could come out of here maybe with some points, and you know, we seem to do well in these type of races, and I like the ovals. And, you know, I'm just really disappointed for the whole Toyota Castro Degree team. I mean, they worked hard, and, you know, we've been struggling the last couple races, but I'm sure we'll get it turned around.
And Jack, in a way, he said it was a relief. It kind of put him out of his misery. It was a scary car to drive.
Wow. Well, another driver that's starting to experience some misery is your former leader, Greg Moore. We alluded to the fact that when he dropped off of the pits on the pits for service, that he had a problem with his clutch. Well, he has since radioed in that he has totally fried the clutch, guys. In fact, under yellow, as he came across the start-finish line 2 laps ago, he literally stalled the car trying to find a gear. And then he was just simply very lucky, Gary, because he was able to bump start it as the field rolled by, the rest of them behind him hitting the grinders.
He was very fortunate indeed. Here's the spare wheel that was standing by for Michael Andretti. We talk about this pit retard button. In this instance, it's this button right here. As Michael comes onto pit road, thumb on the button. That retards the engine, so the electronics automatically slow it down to 60 miles per hour. But for whatever reason, it has malfunctioned. It wouldn't engage, couldn't couldn't get off of it. They thought about changing the wheel, hoping the electronics would then clear up. They've decided they can't risk it at this point, so he stays out there. As one of the crew members said, we're just going to rely on the incredible ability of our driver to hit 60 miles an hour on the nose next time he comes on pit road. Jan?
Well, Brian Herta is now shown in second spot, and the reason he was able to move up is because they decided not to change tires. Bobby Rahal, his boss, went for new tires. Brian Herta did not.
Up come the revs as we prepare to go green. Approaching the halfway mark of this race, lap 124. We've seen 24 lead changes to date. The record is 28, set in 1982 and matched in 1985. Paul Tracy, the current race leader, is the 8th of the day. The third race he's led this year, on board with Gilles de Ferran.
And the word from the pits to Paul Tracy at the drop of the green flag was green, green, green. Focus, focus, focus.
Ryan Herta has taken over the race lead as they flash across the start-finish line, and no sooner do I say that than Paul Tracy swings alongside.
And Gilles de Ferran goes with him, slides underneath Brian Herta.
It's all about momentum with these Hanford devices on the back of the car where the rear wing normally hangs. De Ferran goes around Tracy for the lead. Up onto the 18-degree high banks, 225 miles an hour or so. Lead changes become official at the start-finish line. So no matter how many times you go around each other out there, it's lots of fun to watch, but it doesn't count till you do it under the flag stand.
And guys, you see Brian Herta starting to slide back somewhat now. That's because his car goes loose when he's in traffic. He loves the car when he's on his own, but at the back of the car wants to step out when he gets behind another car.
Halfway point of the race, on board with Alex Zanardi. Brian Herta uphill.
And of course that guy's slipping back there in third spot. That bright red and white car is Al Unser Jr. He was up there at the front early in the race, kind of backed off a little bit, settled down, and look what he's doing right now.
He runs in third place. Tracy, de Ferran, Unser Jr., Alex Zanardi is fourth, Brian Herta now fifth, and Michael Andretti, Bobby Rahal, Adrian Fernandez, Greg Moore, and Jimmy Vasser. Vasser trying to make up for that drive-through penalty, not getting back into line at the right time. Now Tracy down low. What a horrible weekend a week ago on the streets of Toronto at exhibition plays for the Cool team. Dario Franchitti dominated the race, led 76 of the first 78 laps. But with a handful of laps to go, he fell victim to fading brakes. He spun. A handful of cars dove left and right to avoid him, and the one car who could not was his teammate Paul Tracy. Both cars out of the race in the late going. As you look at Al Unser Jr. trying to hoist himself to the front, end a long victory drought for himself, and pick up his car owner Roger Penske's 100th career win.
And remember that he had a big push at the beginning of the race, and they've been able to add front wing to Al Unser Jr. He's now much happier with the car.
2 by 2 they battle. De Ferran momentarily in the lead over Tracy. Behind them, Unser Jr. and Zanardi. Behind them, Andretti and Rahal. Now check that Scott Pruitt, who is a lap down.
And when you talk about Rahal, remember, he went for the new tires. Richie Hearn did not, and it appears as though the boss had the better decision. The used tires for Hearn are not helping.
Okay, be careful. Now let's look at Al Unser Jr. when he goes in here. If you can look at the back of his car, right in that area, smoke coming off of that tire. Looked like on the inside of the tire, it could be the same gremlin that hit Andre Ribeiro. Keep an eye on that one.
His teammate Andre Ribeiro was out of the race. Michael Andretti goes underneath Al Unser Jr. slowing.
If the officials have seen this and they watch this very closely, you do not want oil going down, but doubly you do not want oil going down on your right rear. That's the tire that does all the load around here. Look at the smoke come off of there. I would imagine imagine they're going to have to pull him in and have a look at that one. That's a safety issue for not only Al Jr., but everybody else that's out there.
And the team is saying that they believe it is a leak from the oil catch tank. They're not sure if it's the same problem as Andre Rivero, but they're aware of the fact that the car is smoking.
Michael Andretti picks up another spot, going underneath Alex Zanardi and moving into third place, looking back from Gilles de Ferran's car at Andretti.
And Jan, one thing about it, whether the oil is from the catch tank or from the real tank or any tank, oil on a high-speed oval under your right rear tire is not a healthy thing.
Last time by, the top 6 cars covered by 1.2 seconds.
See Michael Andretti's right hand go down there, shifted gears.
Down low under de Ferran. Andretti going for second now. Tracy leads. Seemed like less than 1.2 seconds.
Look at this racing, though. That whole bunch, those are all for positions in there. Every one of those guys in your screen right now is for a position.
Checking speeds at the line for the last lap. And only the computer could work fast enough to split them up. Patrick Carpentier, fastest lap that last time around. Jimmy Vasser, second quick. Vasser may have something to say about this in the second half.
So much of that, though, is the draft that you get, whether you're running side by side with somebody else. Those times do not indicate that they're faster than everybody else, just that they have a better run.
And did you see that last name to which the number 1 arrow finally attached itself? Richie Hearn. On board with Scott Pruitt. Problems on an early pit stop relegated him a lap down. He currently runs in 13th place, 1 spot behind Richie Hearn. The Vistion Reynard Ford on Firestone tires for Pat Patrick Racing. Car down to his left, right out by the concrete wall off turn 4. Through the tri-oval area. Actually, it's a D-shaped oval, so there isn't really a dog leg there. Meanwhile, for the lead, green and white Paul Tracy. Down low, a man he has battled with hundreds of times, Michael Andretti. Tracy with a slight speed advantage at last lap, but Andretti slices below him and moves into the race lead.
Paul Tracy says, I'm not having any of that. I want to get up alongside him. He went right back around the outside. Michael moves in, gets that draft, just gets a little bit, dives back out. Paul Tracy still likes that outside line, but he's got a slower car in front of him. Looked like the draft disturbed him a little bit. He had to back off, and Gilles de Ferran's going to take a run down the inside because Paul had to lift off that slower car.
Don't forget, Paul Tracy still suffers under the penalty of probation. And one of the things that the entire team has been doing all day is reminding Paul to take things 1 step at a time. Focus has been the key word. In fact, when Paul was out in the lead and got passed a couple of laps ago, Barry Green simply said to him, okay, let's run back in second or third for a while, mate.
Now there are the numbers on Alex Zanardi, going for a record-breaking 5th consecutive win. He is currently in 4th place, just a shade over a second behind race leader Michael Andretti. Battling now with Gilles de Ferran. We have had our 29th lead change, which is a new record for 500-mile races here at Michigan. Look at Gilles de Ferran just rocket up in Michael Andretti's slipstream, slide by up high. And there's Alex Zanardi in that red car going underneath Paul Tracy. Tracy having none of it.
The part that amazes me the most in all this, we're setting a pace that is unbelievable. Everybody's dicing like it's the end of the race, and there's still over 220 miles of racing to go.
Side by side again, Zanardi down low, Tracy up high. See the effect of the wing there. Zanardi simply can't get enough momentum to carry off the pass. Maybe he needs a longer run at him.
Well, these guys are having a great time out there. They're really enjoying this. Dyson swapping back and forth, trying to outfox the other guy and get a little bit of an advantage. This is what it's all about.
Temperature in the high 80s, very hot in these race cars. Tire temperature can peak at 300 degrees in a corner. Operating temperature normally about 200 degrees. Drivers wearing flame-resistant underwear, gloves, driving shoes, helmets with balaclavas. Very hot in those cockpits. Tremendous G-forces in the corners.
Bob, you sound like you've worn one of those suits before and driven.
I have tried it, and that's why I'm up here. I haven't tried it in one of these cars, I must say.
Now, these guys are tremendous athletes. They're in great shape. They spend a lot of time in the car. They work very hard at keeping themselves in top condition. They have to. If they physically start to wear out there, then they will make a mental mistake, and that can be very costly here.
Keep in mind, these cars weigh over 1,500 pounds and no power steering on them, such as you see on the stock cars, the NASCAR Winston Cup Series, who race twice a year here in Michigan. This is hard work. These guys are earning their money. Andretti, DeFerrin, Tracy, Zanardi, Fernandez, Unser Jr., Greg Moore. All of those drivers, race winners in the series, and several champions sprinkled up there as well. Look at the mid formation as Adrian Fernandez, the fourth car in line, moves into the battle as well. Don't forget, you can stay in the fast lane online and chat with Christian Fittipaldi live this Wednesday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time on America Online, keyword ABC Sports or ESPN.com. The top 7 cars covered by 1.6 seconds on the last lap. Through that man on the left, Greg Moore. Alex Zanardi has faded slightly. Zanardi now shown 7th. The order is DeFerrin, Andretti, Tracy, Fernandez, Unser Jr., and Moore and Zanardi.
Let's also look at one thing. Little Al has not stopped. Maybe this has gone away. Let's take a look here as he goes in the corner. Thought I saw a little smoke entering, but it doesn't seem to be as bad as it was before.
And Danny, the team feels that possibly there's a little bit too much oil in the catch tank. And it was the catch tank that actually cracked for Andre Rivero. They don't think that's the same problem for Al. If it continues, they can pump it out, they say, and he'll be able to continue.
The catch tank, of course, is overflow. What overflows out of the engine, it's a safety mechanism to hold the oil so it doesn't dump on the track. But obviously, there's too much in that catch tank. It has to go someplace. They then have an overflow, and the only place to go is on the track. If some of that's dumped out, he doesn't seem to have a problem right now.
Adrian Fernandez down low goes by both Michael Andretti and nearly gets the job done on Gilles DeFerrin. Does he assume the lead? Michael Andretti looking ahead.
Look
side
at that.
by side. Oh, behind goes Fernandez.
Wheel to wheel, though, coming off the 2. Had to tuck in. He's going to take a look inside 3. Didn't have quite enough, but Gilles had a look. I think he probably got a little bit of an imbalance in his car there. Had to come off the throttle. Here he comes back.
Now the drivers say the cars do slide a bit. All that reduced down force at the rear means that the cars will slide up the track a little bit. We saw earlier in the race what can happen. Robbie Gordon slid up there, could not save it, and hit the wall. Adrian Fernandez, the pole sitter for this race, his first career pole in the FedEx Championship. He dropped back, not out of the top 10, but back in the field, biding his time. Now he's coming forward again. Keep in mind, he has that tremendous payday out there in front of him.
And before this race today, gentlemen, Adrian Fernandez in the morning warm-up session quit about 8 minutes early. And one of the teams said it's a case of butterflies. He clearly was being very apprehensive. He knew he had a great opportunity today, and there was all that uncertainty about how the car would respond. I think his patience has been rewarded thus far.
Gilles DeFerrin down under Mauricio Gugelmin in the bright orange car. Let's talk about that payday for Adrian Fernandez, a total of $395,000, which would make this US 500 worth over $1,000 a lap. Michael Andretti in traffic, lifting.
And you saw, was that green and white car, Paul Tracy, one in front of this, shoot around the outside. What happens here is if they get some bad air from a slower car or a car in front of them, they have to back out. It gives them momentum to the guy behind them. And look at Paul Tracy, he's coming strong.
Yeah, that's exactly what Paul Tracy remarked about to Barry Green on the radio. He said, I can't believe how effective the draft is. So then all that Barry said is, well, then let's use it to our advantage.
Well, don't forget, these guys are jockeying right now, finding out what their cars are doing. This is really exciting, and I guarantee you they're having a great time doing this.
Next time under the flag stand, there will be 100 laps to go in what has been a dramatic CART US 500. We have a long way still to race. Stay with us. The CART US 500, an amazing race thus far after 153 laps. 37 now official lead changes. The leader is Adrian Fernandez, who sat on pole for this race, averaging 219 miles an hour for green flag racing. You see the cars out of the race. Normally a 500-mile race produces a lot of attrition. We haven't seen a lot of that here. Paul Tracy is in. Quick work by Team Green. No wing changes. And Tracy is away. It's taking place on lap 155, a 12-second stop. Back on the gas, staying under the yellow line as he must. Now here comes Al Unser Jr. Remember, he had that oiling problem, a suspected oiling problem early on.
Let's look and see if they even go anywhere near the back of the car to change the tire.
And Danny, they're not planning on doing anything of the kind. The CART officials are looking at the back of the car to see if they can see any spray. They are discussing it, but they have not told the team that they need to make any changes. 11.9, nice stop for Al Jr.
Al Unser Jr.'s 5th stop of the race. Paul Tracy has also stopped 5 times. Here comes Gilles de Ferran. Engine ratcheting on the rev limiter. Gary Gerald is there.
Calling again for no changes. He's loved the balance on this race car all day long. It's been a great setup from Derek Walker's team. Revs coming up, but still up on the jack. Now drops and moving. 14.7, a little slower than we've seen from some of the other contenders.
Michael Andretti is in.
Watch your brakes. Watch your brakes.
And boy, he had to guess there. See his brakes locking up right front. Oh, and he slid right up there. The guy on the left front close to the wall.
And remember, Michael has no pit speed limiter, so he's got to be careful when he exits.
Hold it, don't move. Go.
I thought he came in a little slowly. 13.1 second stop for Michael Andretti. Fortunately, he doesn't have far to go before he exits the pit. Adrian Fernandez pits from the race lead.
And Fernandez very calmly pulls to his marks. They are going to go up a half a turn on the front wing. They've adjusted. And they've got a problem, a slight problem on the right rear tire. They complete the change. No, they have not. They have not. They've got a problem. They've dropped the jack. The right front lug had not been re-extended on the right rear tire. This is costly. They had changed the stagger as well. 21.3 seconds. A costly stop for your former leader.
Jack, I think what happened was that gun broke on the right rear. You had to go get the spare and come back out to it.
Now, for many of these leading cars, these are their 5th stops. But for this man, Greg Moore, who now pits from the lead, it is his 4th.
And Greg Moore, at the moment, everything going fine. They're waiting for just a bit more fuel. Oh, he's having trouble again.
Remember, he doesn't have a clutch.
He does not have the clutch. It did not work that time. It looked like he was going to get underway. They'll have to restart it. No onboard starters on these cars. He tries again. And a big loss under green for Greg Moore.
What they have to do there with no clutch is they have to rev it up and then jam it in gear and hope everything catches and you don't stall it.
And one man who took advantage of the problems was Alex Zanardi. You saw him briefly. He got a very quick stop and was back out. We go on board with him.
Bad pit stops for the top 2 cars in the running order. As you ride with Alex Zanardi.
Bob, let me tell you about a good pit stop. Al Unser Jr. has been informed by the CART officials, or the Penske team has, that they have determined there's no oiling problem. They looked at the back of the car, and they're going to let him continue. Let's get to Jackaroo.
Yeah, let's see if we can figure out exactly what happened to your former leader, Adrian Fernandez, on that pit stop. As you know, it's a sequence, kind of a choreography for a race team. Now, one man actually jacks the car up with the air jack. Another man uses their air lug wrench to take the single lug off. Another man helps pull the wheel off, put it back on. Well, everybody was just a wee bit out of step. They dropped the jack too soon. The lug nut had not been tightened. And then all of a sudden, mayhem broke loose, and the seconds ticked away.
Meanwhile, you saw Paul Tracy go rocketing into the race lead around Alex Zanardi. Now on lap 162. Tracy has about 15 car lengths on Zanardi. As you watch Mark Blundell having completed a stop. He's going slowly.
Very slow down the back straightaway. This is not a normal pit stop. He is going slowly. He's down below the white line on the apron.
Going very slow. He may have lost the fire. He had just completed his stop, was coming back out, and now he heads for the pit lane once again.
And what it was, he was scheduled to come onto pit road, so we would make the assumption that he ran it too close on fuel.
We'll take a break. Plenty of action still to come. We'll be back after this message and a word from our ABC stations. The pot continues to boil at the US 500. Welcome back. Here's a look at the pit stop summary. Paul Tracy, Alex Zanardi, Al Unser Jr., Gilles de Ferran, and Michael Andretti when they came in and when they came out, along with the time length of their pit stops. As you can see, Tracy benefited enormously going from third to first, and he's been involved in a struggle with Alex Zanardi. As you ride with Michael Andretti pulling up behind Zanardi, Gilles de Ferran, he is also in this scrum. Zanardi became the 9th race leader thus far, and we still have 80 laps to go in this race.
And the way these guys are racing, you'd think it was the last couple of laps in this race. Zanardi, Gilles de Ferran, Michael Andretti, and the last one in there was Adrian Fernandez after that bad stop. They are right in there, second, third, fourth, and fifth. What a battle.
Pretty brave to put up that running order at the bottom of your screen because it's changing constantly. 41 official lead changes thus far. A long way to go. We'd have to say the experiment with the Hanford device has been a huge success in terms of the racing. Formation flying at 220 miles an hour.
Guys, to update you on Mark Blundell, it turned out it was not fuel for him because he had pitted just on the previous lap. When he left pit road, they suspected something might have happened at the right rear. He came back in and said the steering was not working properly. So they checked all 4 corners of the car. He actually came in twice. They sent him back out. They cannot find a problem with the car.
Mark Blundell, winner of the most recent 500-mile race in the FedEx Championship Series on the 2-mile oval at Fontana, California, where we will finish the 1998 season.
Look at these guys. This is wheel to wheel, as exciting as it gets. These are all for positions except for Castro Neves. You saw a blue and white kind of red stripe car in there. He's in 18th spot. He's battling with these guys.
Michael Andretti down low, Paul Tracy up high. There's Gilles de Ferran and Adrian Fernandez. These guys all going for position, and the red car just leaving your screen. Alex Zanardi is the race leader. The top 5 running nose to tail.
Danny, I have a quick question for you. When you drove here at Michigan Speedway, did you have to use your mirrors a lot, or did you kind of have a sixth sense?
Well, you had to use your mirrors, but this is unbelievable.
Well, my point is today everybody is being referred to watch your mirrors, watch your mirrors. I believe that's a result of how impressive the draft is.
Well, it is, Jack, because you can't move out too fast. There might be another car who's drafted you and somebody else to come along there. If you move out, you might flip another car. I got to tell you, watching this, I'd like to get back in, throw my name in the hat for one of those rides that's open up for next year.
Alex Zanardi now has company as Michael Andretti swoops low. Zanardi has led 10 of the 12 races run thus far this year, including today's US 500. He is the defending race champion. Here last year, he picked up his first oval race victory. He also took the lead for the PPG Cup, symbolic of the Drivers' Championship, while his teammate Jimmy Vasser suffered his last mechanical DNF in this race a year ago. Target Chip Ganassi Racing has been that good. Saturday live at 1 Eastern on ABC Sports. Be sure to watch for the Brickyard 400 as the NASCAR Winston Cup Series gets its turn on the legendary Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Next Saturday, live on ABC Sports.
Right down to
Adrian Fernandez.
There goes the pole money. Right there. That was our pole position.
And a bit of debris went over the catch fence. Mexican slides to a stop in an accident reminiscent of what happened to Robbie Gordon much earlier in this race.
He's parked right there on the FedEx sign, the insignia in the grass. The right side of the car heavily damaged.
His visor is up as he looks around. Safety team on the scene. A cadre of emergency medical technicians, 3 MDs here this weekend.
And you saw how they go in there. They're choreographed just like a pit crew. Medical guys go straight in there to make sure he's okay. The other guys check at the back of the car, make sure there's no fuel leaks, oil leaks, no potential for fire. Then they take the action that they need to, depending on the situation.
Take another look. You saw the debris go over the fence, a grinding crash involving our pole sitter, Adrian Fernandez, for Patrick Racing. Our 4th caution flag of the day. Just 26 laps and counting under caution in this 3rd edition of the CART US 500.
Guys, Steve knew he did radio to Adrian Fernandez as he came to a rest on the grass and said, "Are you okay?" Fernandez waited a very long time and finally radioed back and said, "I think so." That's all the information that we have from pit road at this time, but they continue to talk to Adrian Fernandez, the safety team from CART, that is.
They continue to work on the wreckage of Fernandez's car on the infield. His helmet is off. The reports are that he is drinking water provided by the CART safety team.
Let's not forget, in a situation like this, they want to take their time, be very cautious, make sure that nothing is wrong before they try to extract him from the car, so they make sure they know every situation. These guys are the best, and let me tell you, from a driver's point of view, they are a blessing. We know them all. Everybody's had dealings with them. You know everybody by name. They're tremendous, and it is such a comfort from a driver's point of view to know who's taking care of you in a situation like this. These guys are the best.
They are very professional and take great pride in what they do. The pits are now open. This taking place with 177 laps complete. Here's Helio Castroneves, running back in 19th place when this 3rd caution flag of the day came out. There is Fernandez now climbing out of his car. Action on pit road. Andretti, Zanardi, Tracy, all of the lead lap cars in right now.
And now Junior is expecting only to make a front wing change.
10 cars in all in the pit lane as we watch the
One big change on Paul Tracy, and that was a wing change. But for all of these drivers, these lead cars, the whole key is to try and top off the fuel. And who knows, if this is an extended caution, they may come back in again, guys.
Tracy was the first to move, but much farther up the pit lane towards the exit. Alex Zanardi was able to get out before him. Michael Andretti quite late coming out. We'll take a break and return with more live from the US 500. Back at Michigan Speedways, the CART US 500 is now 180 laps in, 70 laps remaining. We are under caution for the 4th time today. Track crews are out sweeping up rubber off the tires. Try to clean up the racetrack. Now this yellow flag was brought out by a heavy crash on the front stretch, brought out by Adrian Fernandez, and that crash involved a tire and wheel that cleared the debris fence and went into the grandstand. Don't know what might have transpired in the grandstand. We hope everyone is all right. We will update the situation as we can. But right now, we are under caution. Here's another look. Watch the back upper right corner of your screen.
Right here, Adrian's already up there in the gray. All this is gray area there. Hits the wall, see the tire going up there. Clears the fence at an angle, and we lose sight of it right up in this area. Adrian, then the right side of the car, or left as you're looking at, is completely gone, sliding along the wall. Debris coming off there, and you'll see him start veering down in this direction toward the infield.
So Adrian Fernandez climbed out of his car and was taken to the infield medical center. Don't forget, coming up today after our coverage of the US 500 at 4:30 Eastern on ABC Sports, a Tour de France special, stage 14, as the cyclists ride down through the Alps. That should be magic to watch. Check out our Tour de France special coming up next on ABC Sports. We'll take a break and return with more as the laps continue to tick away at the US 500. Back at Michigan Speedway as the US 500 continues. In a moment, we expect the green flag. Here's another look at the incident in which Adrian Fernandez hit the wall.
Adrian Fernandez right there. Paul Tracy down the inside. Adrian tries to tuck down underneath him, and he loses the air, I think. Gets up in the gray. Nothing can happen.
Once again, as you saw, a tire and wheel cleared the debris fence, went into the grandstand. We understand there are some injuries. We do not know the extent of them. We surely hope that they are not serious. We expect a green flag shortly. Alex Zanardi, the race leader. Paul Tracy shown in second. Al Unser Jr. in third. Gilles de Fer in fourth. Greg Moore in fifth, running without a clutch. He is still one pit stop down on the rest of the leading cars.
Car on the back. He's on the grass going backwards right there.
One of the team green cars, that's Dario Franchitti, the Scotsman who took pole a week ago on the streets of Toronto and narrowly missed collecting his first kart FedEx Championship Series win.
See them all bunched up right there, and Dario's right in that area. I cannot tell whether he touched somebody or stood on the gas and just got it sideways on cold tires. Nobody else seems to be affected by it. The front of his car, the wings look intact. They're drooping down like that. That's the angle that they always are set on a super speedway.
And you can see all the rubber buildup on the roll hoop behind his helmet. We'll take this opportunity for another break. We'll be back after this message and a word from our ABC stations. Back at Michigan, the Goodyear blimp Spirit of Akron, flying high overhead, provides our aerial views today. Proud to be a part of the Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company's 100th anniversary celebration. After a very frightening moment here at Michigan Speedway, in which a tire has gone into the grandstand, producing some injuries, we do not know the severity of them. We prepare for a green flag. Alex Zanardi leading Paul Tracy and Al Unser Jr. Let's go down to Jackaroo.
Bob, let's talk to Dr. Stephen Olby, who's in charge of the CART Medical Center here. First, the condition report on Adrian Fernandez.
Well, Jack, Adrian is in good shape. He's bruised the inside of both of his knees. The only reason he's not out here talking to you is we got him iced down inside. We're going to keep him for about a half hour.
Now, we saw a tire from Adrian Fernandez's car go into the grandstands. What can you report on that situation?
The only thing I can report is that the helicopter has been dispatched from this area to go to that area. Dr. Bauman is over there taking care of that situation now, and that's really all I know at this point.
Jan?
Well, the situation for Dario Franchitti, we saw him parked on the grass, and Danny, you saw him spun, and we're not sure about contact. He said on the radio the car slowed in front of him. He jammed on the brakes. He spun on his own, said it was his fault.
All right, thank you, guys. There's Franchitti's teammate, Paul Tracy, to the right of your screen. Currently in second place behind race leader Alex Zanardi, for whom this could be a record-breaking day. If he can win this race with 63 laps still to go, that is very much in doubt. It would mark his 5th consecutive victory, a new CART FedEx Championship Series record. And would certainly give another boost to his hopes of his second straight PPG Cup. We are green once again, and immediately Al Unser Jr. from third place is looking for more. Tracy underneath for the lead. On the backstretch. All 4 cars on your screen are for the race lead as Zanardi goes low. Tracy, Unser up high. Gilles de Ferran coming into view as well.
And Al had to back off right there because as he went up high, Paul Tracy had to move up a little bit because of Alex Zanardi. Little Al had to lift off going into 3.
But he keeps Gilles de Ferran behind him. Behind de Ferran, it is Greg Moore, Jimmy Vasser, Richie Hearn, Michael Andretti, Brian Herta, Bobby Rahal, and Michael Andretti. Andretti going backwards down the timing list, and there is why. He's in the pit lane. And he exits immediately. He was called in for a pit infraction, we are told. Running over an air hose in the pit lane. So Michael Andretti suffers all the way back to 12th place.
Did you see how close that was with Paul Tracy when he drafted Alex Zanardi? Boy, he just by inches pulled out around him.
Unser Jr. third. Looked like he had a thought about the inside there. Tracy, Zanardi, and now Gilles de Ferran attacking Al Unser Jr. for third.
And right behind them guys, Jimmy Vasser. Remember the problem he had on that drive-through penalty? This last yellow has enabled him to catch up with the lead back. He could be a factor here very shortly.
It also looked like Michael Andretti, he got the drive-through, but he was far enough up there. I think he stayed on the lead lap. So he'll try to work his way back up, hope for a yellow, see if he can get back in the hunt.
2 separate battles here. You see up front, it's Tracy, Zanardi, and Unser. Behind them, Gilles de Ferran, Greg Moore, Jimmy Vasser, and I believe Richie Hearn also in that battle over 4th place. And they are catching up to the front 3.
The more these guys battle, the more it holds them up. It allows the guys in the back, if they stay in a draft, they can work their way to the front.
There's Greg Moore in blue coming up quickly behind Al Unser Jr. And then Jimmy Vasser. And behind him, Gilles de Ferran, who's dropped back to 6th. And Richie Hearn, the red car, last in line.
These guys look like, again, they're battling right there to the finish. There's over 100 miles of racing to go.
1.3 seconds covers 1st to 7th on board with de Ferran.
Saw his car moved up. He was behind the car on the left of your screen there. Moved up a little bit. That's probably the disturbed air. You've got to be careful not to get up in that gray. We've seen 2 accidents up there so far today.
On board now with Richie Hearn.
And you heard him and saw him downshift into a lower gear so he can get a run off of here.
Al Unser Jr. to the left. Alex Zanardi to the right. Unser Jr. challenging for the race lead. Up high around Zanardi. If he gets to the stripe first, chuck that lap up to Little Al.
And listen to the crowd. He got there, but Alex then pulled right back by him just after the start-finish line. Look at this, 1st to 5th. In a matter of going from over the start-finish line to 1st. He's slowing.
Is there a problem for Al Unser Jr. as he pulls down to the inside? He may be headed for the pit lane. Richie Hearn goes by, dropping Unser Jr. to 7th.
He is slowing drastically. He's going to dive down into the pits.
Another dramatic turn in this race. Al Unser Jr. has problems, heads for the pit in. And the front group has been reduced to 6 with 55 laps to go.
Al Unser Jr. has shut the engine off on pit road. He's talking to the crew right now. We'll find out. And he's got a misfire.
Meanwhile, the battle up front. Zanardi, Tracy, de Ferran, Moore, Vasser, and Hearn.
Jimmy Vasser has really benefited from these yellows. Remember his penalty earlier? He lost a lap, and look where he is right now, right back in the thick of things.
46 lead changes among 9 drivers. 54 laps to go. If either Jimmy Vasser or Alex Zanardi win this race, it will be the 7th consecutive victory for Target Chip Ganassi Racing. That will tie the series record set by Team Penske back in 1994. And if Jimmy Vasser can come through, what a victory it would be after that black flag. There you see the number of laps led by the two tire companies involved. Firestone with a slight edge over Goodyear, and a long race still to come. 2 years ago at the inaugural US 500, Jimmy Vasser took pole, crashed before the field came down to the green. They stopped the race, loaded everybody up in backup cars. Vasser went out in his backup car and won the race. Target Chip Ganassi Racing has a handle on this place. Zanardi runs first, Vasser fourth. We'll be back. Back live at Michigan Speedway as Gilles de Ferran leads the US 500 field under the flag. 52 lead changes. Here comes Alex Zanardi for another. We are 202 laps into this race. The longest any driver has led in one stretch was 28 laps. That was Michael Andretti from lap 38 to lap 65. Other than that, it has been a lead swapping extravaganza here at Michigan. Now the story of Al Unser Jr. has come full circle. Here's Jan Bikas.
And Al has climbed from his car. I understand it's electrical problems was what put you out, but you've got to be excited about leading the race there for a short period of time.
Yeah, it just seems every time we get in front, something happens right now. But I don't know if it was electrical or what it was. You know, the engine just started cutting out on me right when I came off of fourth. When I got the lead, and I told Roger under the yellow we were gonna lead this thing right as soon as it went green. And you know, what can I say? I mean, the car was beautiful, and the crew did a fantastic job. And I want to say hi to little Al and Cody and Shannon and little Joe at home.
Okay, little Al's back. Thanks.
On board now with Richie Hearn as the fight continues up front. Zanardi, de Ferran, Vasser, Tracy, Hearn, Moore, and Brian Herta trying to close up. Actually, this is a battle between the teammates, Herta and Rahal.
And they are all there back in 7th and 8th spots, but they're only just behind the lead group. Those guys being teammates should be able to work together and get themselves up into that lead group. We've got probably one more pit stop to go, and this is going to be a race all the way to the end. We've got under 100 miles. Look out.
During driver introductions, Bobby Rahal stepped forward, and the grandstands came to their feet in an extended standing ovation, acknowledging his glittering career in this, his final race at Michigan. Now look at his hands as he reaches for, is that his dashboard? One of his indicators coming loose just above the steering column there on the front bulkhead. Just what you want at 220 miles an hour plus. He's reaching for it again.
He's just patting it down. Bobby's a team owner, you know, he's got to make sure that car, he doesn't want to lose that piece. It could cost him a little bit.
Casual as can be at these speeds, under these pressures. Amazing.
Remember, the driver's got to be taking in everything that's going on at 220, 230 miles an hour. He's got to sense everything, see everything that's going on around him, to be able to make a split-second decision.
They are not closing up. They are, in fact, losing time now to that lead group. 5 full seconds behind. Jan Bikas.
Well, Tommy Cameron is in charge of public relations for the Speedway. What's the situation on the spectators in turn 4?
We've had 3 people who have been critically injured. They're going to be transported by helicopter to nearby hospitals. We do have an emergency situation.
All right. Any more information you can give us than that? Were there other minor injuries?
There were 7 injuries total, and we do have a number of ambulances that are up behind the turn 4 grandstands, and we'll be transporting those people immediately. We do have a very fine care staff here, a medical staff, who is on the scene right now.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jan. Our thoughts and prayers are with those injured spectators. On the racetrack, Zanardi and de Ferran, then this group, Vasser, Tracy, Hearn, and Greg Moore in the blue and white car just behind the red machine of Richie Hearn.
And fellas, one driver that is very agitated and frustrated right now because he cannot get up and draft with the leaders is a fading Paul Tracy. Not because he doesn't have the power to, because of concern that he might not have enough methanol to. You see, they're going to try and push their final pit stop to about lap 2:19. If they do that, they think they'll have sufficient fuel to go to the end. But Barry Green is still doing his calculations.
And they'll be crunching those numbers with each lap that goes by. If we get a yellow, things are going to get really exciting. 2 weeks from now, we'll do it all again, but we'll be back on permanent road courses at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. Join us here on ABC Sports for the Carton Miller Lite 200, Sunday, August 9th. Paul Tracy runs in 4th place.
Boy, Zanardi has broken away from this pack a little bit. These guys are going to need some help from some other cars, who are going to have to work together or really get a break in the pit stop. And as we've seen this year, Alex Zanardi hasn't made many mistakes in the pits.
He has been absolute magic, checking speeds at the line. And once again, the fast driver in the field is further back. Greg Moore, 226.757 miles an hour. How about Patrick Carpentier, 226. Scott Pruitt with a 225. This one is long from over. Greg Moore down low, attacks Richie Hearn. 38 laps to go next time by. The laps clicking down at 32 seconds per. On board with Richie Hearn. That's how they're running. We'll be right back. Back at Michigan, I said if things went yellow, it would get a little crazy, and now they will be crazy. The pits are closed. We are under the caution flag for that man, Dario Franchitti, who lost an engine right under the flag stand.
And the guy that benefited the most from this, Michael Andretti. He's on the leader lap, but Zanardi was closing in on him and was not that far away from putting a lap on him. Michael gets to go to the back of the pack, make a pit stop, come back, and hopefully have a shot at that lead again.
Michael Andretti, they took the wicker out, we understand, in the rear wing the last time around. The car was real loose. Then they put it back in. Gilles de Ferran's crew had been thinking about that because what they saw happen to Andretti. They're anticipating no changes. They were thinking about trimming the car out. But as you say, it's going to be a mad scramble. Interesting note now, Zanardi and de Ferran are adjacent to each other at pit exit.
And Paul Tracy was looking to pit on lap 219. Right now, Barry Green is saying to him, if we can stay out there, that's when the pits should open. And then he says, we'll give you as much as we can, but we're still going to have to conserve to all the way to lap 250.
That in a race like this is the worst words a race driver can ever hear.
Well, right now they're at 33 laps to go, Danny, and that's about the expected pit window for everybody under green. So each one of these yellow flag laps really precious to these teams in terms of fuel.
Absolutely.
As they cross the start-finish line, officially now 32 laps to go. As the kart safety crew has a look at the racetrack, that's where the engine first went sour for Dario Franchitti. And after a long plume of smoke, there was some oil down at pit out, but the Scotsman got the car off the racing line and off the racetrack. Hopefully the cleanup will not take long. Now the pits are coming open. Later today, over on ESPN2, you can catch drag racing action, the NHRA Autolite Nationals from Sears Point Raceway in Sonoma, California. That's on ESPN2 at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 Pacific. Check it out. Now the pits are open. The lead lap cars will be coming in, and the delicate minuet in the pits will begin. We'll follow the top 3 cars once again. In a moment, the drivers will turn it over to their pit crews for roughly 12 seconds before they go back out for what we anticipate will be the last stop of the day. Gary?
They're feeling the pressure down here. Every one of these crew guys now knows that something rides on each shoulders. And again, your 2 front runners are pitted right next to each other.
See the crews out there in the pit lane.
But the first car that will hit his marks is the car furthest down pit road, and that is Paul Tracy. They go to work, and they keep telling Paul, remember, you're going to have to conserve fuel. A wing change down on the front wing for Tracy.
Michael Andretti has
change, Zanardi.
Michael Andretti has just reached his
Zanardi's out. Zanardi behind him, and he lost a couple of spots.
Zanardi ahead of Paul Tracy. Vassar out as well.
Gilles de Ferran lost a lot of ground in that pit stop.
And to update you on Greg Moore, remember he does not have a clutch. He was in 4th place coming in. He did not stall it. 12.8 seconds, so a good stop for Moore.
And There is Greg Moore back out after a good stop under the conditions. We'll be back after this message and a word from our ABC stations. Welcome back to Michigan's Irish Hills. The Goodyear Blimp Spirit of Akron is high above, helping us keep track of the cars here at Michigan International Speedway in the US 500. Find out all about the Goodyear Blimp fleet on the internet at www.goodyear.com. We are going green with 28 laps remaining in the CART US 500. The order is Alex Zanardi, Jimmy Vasser, his teammate, then Greg Moore, Scott Pruitt, Brian Herta, Gilles de Ferran, Bobby Rahal, Richie Hearn, Patrick Carpentier, and in 10th place, Michael Andretti. 11th is Paul Tracy, who had to return to the pits with a mechanical problem.
And the reason was because the wheel lock got hung up on the wheel nut. And so they were not able to tighten the right rear wheel. He had to come back. They had to beat it with a hammer, and then they finally got it tightened. He's now going to have to work his way from the back of the pack.
It's a race of the teammates up front, a battle of the last two CART FedEx Championship Series title holders. Vasser now leads Zanardi.
And after the round of pit stops, Chip Ganassi went and high-fived all the crew members, both sides. They were superb again in the pits.
Let's go to Jackaroo.
Well, Adrian Fernandez has been released from the CART Infield Care Center. Adrian, we've only caught on tape the tail end of your crash into the wall. What set the wheels in motion, so to speak, for the crash? What happened?
Well, Tracy was coming behind me and, you know, got into the inside and straight away pulled to the outside where I was on my line and cut completely my air, and I was just a passenger. Just the car just went completely to the high, to the gray part of the track, and after that, I have no control of the car. I was completely a passenger.
So you're saying that Tracy hit you or just simply took the air away?
Took the air away. So he went into the inside of me, and instead of keeping his line, he went straight out in my entry. He went out in the high part of the track and completely caught my air, and I lost my car completely. You know, once you get there, there's no grip, there is nothing I can do.
And fellas, you want to know how hard he hit? The onboard telemetry says 92 plus G's.
Thanks, Jack. Good to hear that Fernandez is all right. Right now, the man on the move is the man in that silver Visteon car with the orange stripes and the yellow helmet, Scott Pruitt, who before those last pit stops turned the fastest lap we've seen all day, 228.5 miles an hour, is now in third place, having just gotten around the blue car of Greg Moore.
Gilles de Ferran had a terrible pit stop. He's moving up as well. He's hoping to get a draft off these two guys. That's him at the back of your screen in the blue and white Valvoline car. Right there, they're all bunching up. We've got a yellow down in turn 4.
We have a crash down in turn 4. Is that J.J. Leto? Yes, it is.
And it looks like the same thing that's happened. We've seen this a couple of times today. Up there in turn 4, gets up high, gets in the gray, takes off the right side of the car.
See Leto sitting in the car, talking on the radio. Tremendous right side damage. Appeared to be Dave Hollander, the crew chief, safety unit number 2, along with Dr. Terry Trammell, Phil Layton, and Lloyd Mokler on the scene.
See, he's up there in the gray just like everybody else. He's got no control, as we heard Adrian Fernandez said. Once you get up in that gray, you are just a passenger.
And one man who was trailing was Gilles de Ferran. He radioed his crew, said he had to lock up to avoid becoming a part of it himself.
So another heavy crash, the third in as many weeks for young Finn J.J. Leto, driving for Carl Hogan. He told me this weekend they have been very expensive weekends. The last 2, now 3, with hundreds of thousands of dollars in damages and not a point to show for them. Meanwhile, for this man, Scott Pruitt, fortune appears to be smiling. He is up into third place, and with this yellow flag, he will close up on the leading teammates, Alex Zanardi, currently on point, and Jimmy Vasser.
And fellas, remember how fortuitous it was, one of those early cautions, because he had the problem with his onboard jacking system. They brought him back onto pit road under the luxury of caution and tightened the jack back up, and he's been running well ever since.
There's the view from our Honda Helicam. Danny Sullivan, we said it at the top of the show, 500 miles is a long race, and even if you get down, you can come back.
You can in a couple of breaks. You got to persevere. You got to stay patient. Remember, the only lap you really want to lead around here is lap 250. and we're a ways away from that and a lot of racing to go. Now what's going to happen too is anybody that was even close on fuel, this yellow will help them tremendously. They're going to turn the mixture up and everybody's going to be racing hard to the green flag.
Scott Pruitt made up his lap under the previous yellow flag brought out by Adrian Fernandez, and that quick lap I mentioned earlier, 2:28.5, no doubt helped him. Gary Gerald.
Dario Franchitti headed back to pit road after blowing the engine. What I'm curious is about your thoughts about the Hanford device and the type of racing that we've been witnessing today. Do you like it?
Oh yeah, for sure. I like the type of racing. Basically what's happening is if you're not in a line of cars, if you pull out to try and pass somebody on your own, your history, you got to really think about what you're doing out there. The cars are pretty stable. I guess a lot depends on setup. My car was bad at the start and very good towards the end. A lot depends on setup, but I think it's a good thing, and I think the racing was very close out there.
Of the guys that you saw around you, do you think anybody's got any kind of an advantage as we come down toward the final lap?
I mean, I was running pretty close to the back, so I couldn't really say.
All right, just good to see you're all right. Thank you. Dario Franchitti headed back to his crew.
All right, the Toyota safety car is back out front ahead of Alex Zanardi and Jimmy Vasser. Scott Pruitt in third. There you see the rest of the top 12. We'll take a break and return with more from Michigan. Welcome back to Michigan, where our Toyota Spotlight highlights Alex Zanardi, who was in position to break a record today. Win number 1 on Belle Isle in the Detroit River with opportunistic pit strategy. His second win at Portland on the road course. The third in a row at Cleveland at Burke Lakefront Airport, where he dominated after taking the lead on lap 12 and never looking back. And then 4 in a row 1 week ago on the streets of Toronto, Canada. If Alex Zanardi wins today, he will set a new FedEx Championship Series record with his 5th in a row. And with 19 laps remaining, he looks like the betting favorite. Let's go down to Gary Gerald.
Chip Ganassi, the man who calls the shots. He's on the radio with Alex. Of course, he owns the team, both men first and second. What kind of orders? How do you approach these final laps?
Gary, as you know by now, we have 2 #1 drivers. We got 2 #1 cars. There's only one rule: don't crash into each other.
Who concerns your 2 drivers or you the most that's behind a challenge?
Well, you got to look at the guys right behind us. I mean, you got to look at Pruitt. You got to look at Moore. Those guys are fast. They've turned some very fast laps. This thing's far from over.
What is your impression now of racing with the Hanford device?
I'll tell you what, from my vantage point, I've never seen a race like this in my life with this joint. It's pretty damn exciting.
I think you got a lot of company there. Let's go to Jack.
Well, Gary, Tom Anderson went over and talked to his boss, Chip Ganassi, monitoring the radios, watching the TV, and then you radioed over to your driver, Jimmy Vasser. Hey, everything's pretty quiet around here, and you said maybe it's everyone for themselves?
Yeah, that's the deal, Jack. All bets are off. Everybody for themselves now.
Now, what can you do? Do you have any working knowledge or maybe some inside ideas that you could pass on to Jimmy to try and overhaul his teammate?
No, that's just the way the cars are set. The last chance we had to do anything about it was at the pit stop, and we decided to go for the position rather than doing some changes to the car. He had been pushing a little bit later on in the session, but now with this yellow, the tires won't get that far into the deal, so we're hoping to have a pretty good race car right now.
Now, Jan, when Tom Anderson radioed that information to his driver, Jimmy Vasser, all Vasser said is, okay, it's about time.
Well, Jack, you also heard Chip Ganassi talk about Scott Pruitt. He is the guy, as well as Greg Moore, that he's worried about. Well, the situation for Scott Pruitt is this. They actually have more fuel than they need. They have radioed to Scott and said, we want you to burn some fuel, in effect jettison some of the weight off of this car, so when we get back to the restart, the car will be lighter. In this particular race, fuel is not a problem.
Well, Jan, that's very difficult to jettison it, but it means turn the mixture up, rev it up some on these warm-up laps before they get it going on the green flag. But let's not forget something that Scott Pruitt said on RPM tonight. He said, you do not want to be leading this race going into the last lap of this event because he thinks that the draft will pull him forward. So let's be prepared for a very exciting finish.
Scott Pruitt shared one of the most exciting last laps in Michigan history, battling with Al Unser Jr. just a few years ago before Pruitt emerged with his first career 500-mile victory. As for Target Chip Ganassi Racing, they are looking for their 22nd victory in the last 45 races. They have been so dominant since the beginning of the 1996 season. for which Jimmy Vasser took the title, followed a year later by Alex Zanardi. In the little more than 2.5 seasons since, they have won nearly $9 million in purses and bonuses. High overhead, the Goodyear blimp Spirit of Akron continues to provide us with terrific aerial shots of Michigan. Once again, to find out more about Goodyear's blimp fleet, check out the internet at www.goodyear.com. 55 total official lead changes and plenty more unofficial ones on the backstretch as the cars dodge back and forth for the lead. 11 cars on the lead lap. The first seat drivers have all won 500-mile races here at Michigan, so they know what they're doing.
And Alex Zanardi,
especially him,
started about halfway down the back straightaway. He was not going to let anybody get close to him. He just jumped the entire field, including his teammate. I guess all bets are off.
Greg Moore immediately on the offensive. Actually, he has been passed by Gilles de Ferran. De Ferran has gone from 5th to 4th. And look at De Ferran put the move on Scott Pruitt.
And that was about as close to wheel-to-wheel racing as you want to get in a champ car.
All those drivers know what happens when you get up there in the gray in turn 4. Give it to De Ferran, who is now in 3rd place. Pruitt to the right of your screen, trying to scramble back. 15 laps to go in this race. 14 the next time by the start-finish line. De Ferran trying to haul himself up to Jimmy Vasser in 2nd.
He's got to be worried more about Jimmy Vasser. They need to catch Alex Zanardi, who got a great restart, and he is making the most of it. The question is, can this pack draft up and catch him and pass him before the 250th lap?
2 Firestone cars with Honda engines being chased by another Honda on Goodyear tires. Zanardi, that man, Jimmy Vasser, who grew up racing karts and quarter midgets on the West Coast. His father, Jim Sr., has been here this weekend watching his boy drive. Checking the speeds from the last lap. 223 for Zanardi. Greg Moore now up high on Scott Pruitt. But Pruitt holds him off.
Jimmy Vasser's making a move down the back straight on his teammate.
Now keep in mind, Zanardi has that 69-point lead. Even if he were inclined to take a few risks here in order to win the race, he really doesn't need to do that. He is so comfortably out front of the championship, he can give away 3 races full of points. Of course, Alex Zanardi would never admit to that.
And now let me tell you, he just came back very strong around the outside. That may be the case. Be conservative. He's got a big cushion. But there's a reason he's a champion. He wants to win the race today.
Whether Alex Zanardi remains with Target Chip Ganassi Racing next year or moves on to Formula One, that will be a story for weeks to come. Right now, he is totally focused, and his focus is absolutely amazing. He can put aside such concerns as the fact that his wife spent an overnight in the hospital while carrying their first child earlier this week. On the racetrack, he simply drops the visor, and he is in his own world. Right now, he's got to deal with his teammate, and here comes De Ferran.
And look at Jimmy Vasser. He dove down the inside, trying to break a little bit of that draft, using some IROC techniques that he's learned. Don't let those guys get too close.
Across the line they come again, running nose to De Ferran, Zanardi, Pruitt. There is Jim Vasser watching his son in action. And listen to the crowd. Oh, problems for De Ferran.
Oh, big
suspension
in the back. No, that's a blown engine.
Yep.
Turbo fire. We'll have a yellow flag for that one.
And we do. Jim Swintel brings out the yellow once again here at Michigan. As suddenly it has all gone away for Gilles de Ferran. Let's take another look.
Goes in high, top of your screen.
Oh,
boom. Motor blows. Now the flames came out, little fire, little oil in there. Nothing serious. Gilles waits until everybody goes by on the inside, moves down. Very professional. Got down there where he wouldn't get the track all oily. Nothing
Thought he
appears
might
to
have
be
been
coming out.
dragging a suspension piece. Those pieces are changed to prepare the cars for the high stresses of oval track racing. But it appears that an engine has gone away. Down to Gary.
Derek Walker, you watch on. You're so close to winning this race. It must be crushing at this time.
Well, real disappointing, Gary. I mean, we played this thing right up to this point. We worked on the race all of the time. We're right in the position to do it. We could have got Vassar. Something's gone wrong. I don't know what it is, but we'll have to try another day. What can I say?
Thank you so much.
Through it all, no matter how rough the luck, Derek Walker always manages a smile. Gilles de Ferran rolls in. We will stay live with the action here. And now you see that Gilles de Ferran has made the pit lane. Meanwhile, Alex Zanardi pulls up behind his teammate Jimmy Vassar, and the shoe is on the other foot. It will be Vassar's chance to try to get a jump on a restart.
And the question is, Scott Pruitt's back in third spot. Is he sitting exactly where he wanted to be after his comments on RPM tonight? Says you do not want to be leading this last lap.
Down a gear, up go the revs. There's Max Pappas, who pits the MCI car for Arciero Wells Racing.
And that car has been not sounding so healthy the last few times down the front straightaway. So a possible engine-related problem for Max Pappas.
Oh, yeah, I'd say so. Jan, that's a big fire back there. Obviously blew something and just smoldering there.
Here's a look from our Honda Helicam. 7 laps to go next time by.
And I think what we've seen is just the pace and the racing that we've seen all day long is taking its toll. It's a 500-mile race, not 499.
Well, I made that point earlier. We hadn't seen a whole lot of attrition near the halfway mark, but suddenly it all comes home to roost in the second half. Two teammates. I wonder what communications are passing from them to the pits, through the pits to each other.
I can tell you this. One thing they do, all bets are off, but they'd still like to make sure that one of the target Chip Ganassi cars wins this race and they don't get into too much of a battle and allow somebody, Scott Pruitt, Greg Moore, somebody back there, even Bobby Rahal, to snooker them and win this thing.
Remember, I can report. That's exactly what Chip Ganassi, remember what he said. Anything goes as long as they don't get into each other.
And also, Gary, Tom Anderson, who ramrods the ride for Jimmy Vassar, has been talking back and forth during this caution, but nothing, and I repeat, nothing has been coming from the cockpit of Vassar's car. He is focused on the task at hand and wants to come to victory lane to repeat his US 500 victory from the inaugural event.
Well, you raise a good point there, Jack. The top 3 men have all won 500-mile races here at Michigan, including this man, Scott Pruitt. In 18 500-mile races here, we have had 16 different winners. Only Michael Andretti and Scott Goodyear have won more than once here at Michigan. Among these 3 guys, we will see, or we could see, our third multiple 500-mile race winner here at Michigan. Who will it be? We're about to find out. 6 laps to go next time by.
And in regards to Scott Pruitt, in a very similar fashion to Jimmy Vassar, nothing at all coming from the cockpit. Another man that's totally focused at the job at hand.
Well, Jan, I don't know about those guys in the cockpit, but I tell you, my adrenaline's going up here. My heart's pumping. This is going to be a shootout.
There are the 2 teammates. Vassar leading Zanardi. 2 men who grew up on opposite ends of the world. Vassar in California and Zanardi in his native Italy.
Well, remember now, Zanardi showed his hand on the last restart. Jimmy Vassar wants to try to do the same thing to Zanardi. Zanardi is not going to be snookered, I think, as easily as he caught Jimmy's napping that last time. And neither is the rest of the field. They are right now going into turn 1. Everybody's getting prepared for the millisecond that Jimmy jumps on that throttle, that they do the same thing.
Hey, very quickly, here's what Tom Anderson just told his driver. He gave him the rundown of who was behind him, and then he said, next time by, you'll be looking for a green flag. Anderson said, good luck. Vassar keyed the mic for the first time and said, thanks, I'll need it.
Look at this, and everybody's ready. They know what's coming.
17 cars.
Trophy dash. Everybody, look at that. Jimmy's trying to go. Zanardi's right there. Oh, look at him. It's sideways. Oh, he jumped on the throttle. Jimmy got a little bit of a break there.
Keep in mind, those guys behind are plenty fast, too. 17 cars still in the race of the 28 starters as Jimmy Vasser, winner of the inaugural US 500 2 years ago, brings them to the line, and Zanardi is on the move.
And even with that jump, so look at Zanardi. He drafted him right around the outside.
5 laps to go. 10 miles remaining of 500 at Michigan.
I think Zanardi hit that little extra power button right there.
Could have been. Hit the button that gave him a few extra revs exactly when he needed it. Right up to the 15,000 RPM maximum.
Well, let's see if Scott Pruitt called it and said you do not want to be leading that last lap.
Here comes Vasser up high around his teammate. I've got a button too, Padre. Zanardi and Vasser behind him. It's Pruitt, Moore, Bobby Rahal in there, Richie Hearn,
and look at
Michael
Greg Moore in the blue car.
Yep.
He's coming right down along Jimmy Vasser.
Close.
And let's not forget, Scott Pruitt's been in this position before. Oh, smoke on Jimmy Vasser. Smoke on the right side of Jimmy Vasser.
That's Pruitt just behind. That's Zanardi's car. That is Zanardi in second
I'm so
place.
excited up here. I got the cars wrong. Look at that smoke down there. Zanardi slowing, came down the inside. He wants those points. Is he going to try to nurse it? No, he's going for it.
And there is another very evil-sounding car out there further back in the pack.
And look at this.
Here goes Moore. Moore going for the lead around Jimmy Vasser.
And even over the roar of the engines, you can hear this huge crowd with a giant roar as Moore goes on top.
And here comes Jimmy. He's coming back around the outside.
Pruitt down low for third. Oh, Zanardi has still got his foot in it.
And look at this. This looks like the first lap of the race.
White flag next time by. Vasser and Moore. Zanardi has dropped back a few car lengths. Pruitt has dropped back behind him.
Moore tried to look underneath. Not having it.
It appears that these two men will decide it. White flag for Jimmy Vasser. Zanardi attacking for third. Make that second. Oh, will they go 3 wide? No.
Is this a ploy by Jimmy Vasser to back off a little bit, get Greg Moore's draft, and see if he can snooker him on the last lap? Look at Jimmy coming.
Here comes Zanardi. Does he have the horsepower despite that smoke from the back of the car? Greg Moore draws to a couple of car lengths away, and he will win the US 500. And I believe Jimmy Vasser hung on for second over his teammate as Alex Zanardi's engine coughs its last.
And I can tell you, Scott Pruitt was right. You don't want to lead the last lap. Greg Moore passed him, and look at that.
The 17th different winner in 19 500-mile races here at Michigan. And for Greg Moore, this is sweet redemption. He has suffered illness. He suffered a stroke of unfortunate opportunism at Portland, where he dove down to the first turn and collected several cars. He crashed in the opening laps at Cleveland a few weeks ago. Here's the finish. And I believe Jimmy Vasser got Alex Zanardi, who was definitely on the move. Let's look at it one more time.
And what do we have right here is our first, second, and third place guys are the same guys, first, second, and third in the championship.
But not in that order. Greg Moore needed PPG Cup points here at Michigan like he needed oxygen. And now he has a full complement of 20. Oh, this will be one very happy victory lane.
And remember, guys, he had to do it with a totally burnt out clutch. He had more than his share of problems. Greg Moore, now he lifts the visor, and he'll be able to see emotion at its finest. A picture is worth 10,000 words. This is an entire novel in victory lane right now. Well, Greg Moore taking his earpieces out, getting ready to get started here on what has to be a very emotional victory lane for you. The camera is over this way, Greg, and after a great start of a season, more than your share of problems. Now you've battled back. Jerry Forsythe and company, they're going to congratulate you now, but I want to talk about those last couple of laps. That was intense.
Wow. That's all I can say. Thanks. Oh, just the players, guys, gave me great pit stops all day. I mean, we stalled the car twice in the pits. We had a bit of a mechanical or electronic problem there, but we bounced back from it. We knew we had a good car. It was just a question there right at the end. You know, both the Ganassi cars were awfully fast, but we just managed to get them on that last lap going into one.
You know, everybody says, and you've heard it, I know many times, that patience is so important with a 500-mile race. How much patience did you have to practice today?
None. It was flat out from the beginning to the end. I mean, you know, we knew that the Mercedes would be, you know, reliable enough. It's just a question of, could we get the brakes? And we got the brakes today, and I'm just so pleased for all these guys. I mean,
well, it's a very happy victory lane, but there was a photo finish, Gary Gerald, for second place.
And the man who ended up second was Jimmy Vasser. Jimmy, tell me about that last couple of laps and the emotion you're experiencing right now.
Well, it was a good race, a lot of fun. You know, I hate to come second like that, but it's, you know, it was a fantastic race. Greg Moore did a good job. I had to give him a little room there. You know, he got underneath me. I just led the wrong lap, I guess.
Was there any strategy?
Well, not when you got a couple to go, and you know, it seemed like I could pass somebody and pull out a bit, but you know, they just came flying right back up on me. I must have had 10 car lengths when they, you know, we might have had a little problem with something, because when I got out by myself, I couldn't pull, you know, over 1,000 less revs than I should. So, you know, I think it might have been something a little wrong with the top end speed.
All right, we'll hear from his teammate, Jan.
Well, Alex Zanardi, when he got out of the car, he wanted to clear the way because he was told the car is on fire. I believe, were you talking to your wife there?
Yeah, she's been watching. She told me good job.
When you saw the smoke, or did you know the car was smoking and made a decision to stand on it as opposing to lifting?
What can you do about it? There's no difference in this place. It's not that you can ease and say, I hang in there and let the engine have a break. I mean, you flat out all the way. So it's a 50-50.
Well, it stayed together. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations indeed to our top three. Fourth career win for Greg Moore, the second this year, and equally dramatic. We'll be back. Back at Michigan, don't forget, coming up next on ABC Sports, a Tour de France special, the 14th stage in the Alps, a downhill sprint you won't want to miss. The Tour de France coming up next on ABC Sports. After a day full of twists, drama, and tremendous racing action, here are the final results. Victory for Greg Moore, his second of the year. He also snatched a victory away from Alex Zanardi in the closing laps at Rio earlier this year. And of course, the battle for second place between the Target Chip Ganassi Racing teammates resulted in second place for Jimmy Vasser, third for Alex Zanardi, who retains a fat lead in the championship. Not as much attrition as we expected, and a great race. 63 lead changes among 9 drivers. With 7 races remaining in the Kart FedEx Championship Series season, there you see Alex Zanardi's lead over his teammate Jimmy Vasser. Greg Moore, with the victory, remains a very strong third for the PPG Cup. J.J. Leto has not been released from the Infield Medical Center after his crash, but we trust that he will be all right. And of course, our thoughts are with the injured spectators here today at Michigan. We have no further update on them either. I'm Bob Varsha for Danny Sullivan, Gary Gerald, Jan Bikas, and Jack Arute. Thanks for being with us. We'll leave you with a look at some of the highlights of today's Kart US 500 at Michigan Speedway. The drivers in the Kart FedEx Championship Series are amazing athletes, and they gave us an astonishing example of that today. Congratulations to Greg Moore on his victory. Now let's go to Robin Roberts in our Wide World of Sports studio in New York.